Oh, you know what I love?
Sports.
Love sports.
Sports.
When it comes to Texas A&M.
Where are you getting this information?
Let me tell you.
Welcome to TexAgs.
I need to talk a little sports with you, Ags. David Nuño here with TexAgs Radio. Billy Liucci here on TexAgs Radio. Olin Buchanan.
We will develop men, we will graduate players, and we will win championships on the field.
The best way for us to win is to do it together.
Do you realize everybody knows who you are right now?
I think we're coming into this year with a new confidence.
Schools are like, we're freaking Texas A&M, man. Like,
that's about as pretty a throw-catch combo as there is.
I saw the safety roll, the slot fade. I knew where I needed to put the ball.
You had no other option but one hand at that point.
Yeah, man, 50-50 ball, I got to come down with it.
You know, if I'm betting on anybody, it's the Aggies.
I don't like the way negativity feels. And we all entertain it when it comes to sports and social media and whatnot. So I'm going to try as much as possible not to be a cheerleader, but to start off the show with some positive news. Welcome to TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. All right, we're going to start off with something positive, the blanket. When a player gets... Hey, Olin Buchanan, how are you?
Good.
Hey, good to see you, buddy.
Good to be here.
I like that hoodie.
So do I. I'm celebrating.
As you should.
But let's talk about the blanket.
Let's talk about, well, when you get a nickname in sports, typically it's because you come with a reputation, right?
Yeah.
So, like, if you got the name The Blanket, I think your reputation is pretty good. So let's go through some nicknames and see if the reputation matched the name.
Okay.
William Perry the Refrigerator.
Yeah, there's big dude, you know. Yeah.
Big like a fridge,
yeah,
right?
like a refrigerator.
Okay. Gary Payton the Glove. Played defense like a glove.
He was on you, yeah.
Yeah. Michael Air Jordan. He was in the air all the time.
Yeah, he was in the air.
Yeah, so that was his reputation, especially when the nickname started. He could dunk over it.
High and
dunk over fools. A lot of these are basketball ones, but we'll get to some other ones. The Black Mamba.
Okay.
Kobe Bryant,
strike, kill you.
Right, and that
like
came from the movie, like a snake from the movie Kill Bills, where he came
I did not know that.
Yeah, after the whole Colorado thing, he had to like be two different people, a nice person off the court and be a killer on the court, and that's how he came up with the Black Mamba. Let's see. Joe Montana. Joe Cool.
He was cool.
Cool under pressure, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Charlie Hustle.
Nobody hustled in baseball like Pete Rose.
Pete Rose, the best, right? When it comes
he
to
hustled in the casinos as well.
Yeah. Mean Joe Green.
Yeah, he really wasn't that a mean guy.
But mean on the field.
He was.
Mean on the field.
I interviewed him once. He was a really nice guy.
Iron Mike Tyson.
Well, he's like Iron.
He was like Iron.
Of course, if your name's Mike, that Iron is kind of a nickname.
Kind of comes with it.
Yeah, like Mike Ditka was also called Iron Mike, but it fit.
Mr. October.
Reggie Jackson.
Why?
Because he was so good in October when the games really mattered.
Mr. November.
I don't know who Mr. November is.
I just made that up. Jose Altuve. Randy Johnson. Let's not do that one. Anyway.
The big unit?
Anyway, the blanket, right?
The blanket.
The blanket. That means his reputation is?
Blanket coverage.
And I'm all here for it, especially when knowing the DBs, that is an area of emphasis and concern. They've got some guys leaving. You got some young guys hopefully growing into that role. We talked about it before the show. There's some guys that are going to be fine. They just need some time, and they had some time this year. But getting a dude like Will Lee, I think, is a great thing.
I have to admit, I wasn't familiar with him because I don't watch a lot of Kansas State football, right? But when you start doing some of the research on him and the way people react to him, like, okay, I think A&M just upgraded the corner. At corner, no matter who stays or goes, they just upgraded at corner by adding this guy.
You get a quality player with some size, and just looking through a little bit of his resume, I don't have it in front of me right now, but he started at a junior college, community college, and he's worked his way up. I told you a few weeks ago, like I like teams with those kind of guys that are starters.
Mm-hmm.
And not just because, he works really hard. No, this guy's got a chip on his shoulder to prove who he is. He feels like he was not recruit. I don't know if this is the case, but I'm assuming most guys who came up the JUCO ranks and the community college ranks who play in the SEC feel like they were overlooked in high school for whatever reason, size, the where they played, whatever it be. You get here with a little chip on your shoulder. I like it.
Well, you certainly learn to appreciate things when you play at the junior college level, because let's just say you're not pampered. And then, the guys at Kansas State quite often go to junior colleges. And look, they have a real nice program at Kansas State, but it's not as opulent as it is at Texas A&M. So he's going to, I think, appreciate what he's going to have here at A&M maybe a whole lot more than some guys that, show up here out of high school.
Look, and this is just the beginning. We keep saying the portal works two ways. And you may not match, hopefully you do, hopefully you exceed, but you may not match stars, right? A 5-star goes here, you pick up a 4-star. I don't care. Do you match guys with the vision that Mike Elko has and can bring it? And some of the 5- and 4-star guys, I hope they come back. I do. 3 stars. I don't care what your star is. Mm-hmm. But it's kind of like no matter what your star was, when you step on campus, you're still trying to prove yourself. And that's how it should be.
Well, that's true. The stars don't matter once you get here. I always say Mike Evans was a 3-star. Anaya Smith was a 3-star. Johnny Manziel was a 3-star. Kyle Allen was a 5-star. Speedy Noel was a 5-star. You can go down and say Chris Marshall was a 5-star. It really doesn't matter once you get here. Who's going to play like a 3-star? Who's going to play like a 5-star? And who's going to actually be available?
Look, I think getting guys who can start, who have started at big programs, and I would consider is Kansas State a big enough program?
They were the Big 12 champions last year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Getting guys who have played in big, meaningful games, guys that have a chip on their shoulder. And again, I got to see how he plays here, right? Mm-hmm. But that goes for anybody. Sometimes you can get a really good player from somebody else, somewhere else, and they come here and it doesn't work, right? Some guys are destined to play in New York. Some guys are not destined. It's some of it, I think, is situation. Some of it is culture and the development. But as of today, I love it. And some of the other names I'm hearing, I love it. Let's go.
I do think, again, like I said, that A&M is upgrading at cornerback. They're making upgrades. They're making progress. It'll be interesting to see where else they go and who else they can add and what positions. Because there is so much attention nationally, it's almost ridicule on A&M, the guys that are leaving. And quite frankly, there's only a couple of guys that I'm kind of, a little upset that they're leaving. That I really say, man, dang, I hate that this guy's going. A lot of them, I'm like, hey, great, wish you the best of luck. But if what you're going to do in the portal is anything like Will Lee and his background, then I think you're going to be more than okay.
I look at the transfer portal, depending on, and there's 1,600 names in there right now, something like that?
I think there's more than that, a lot more.
Okay. Whatever the number is, I look at it like a buffet. They run out of corn? I don't know who gets corn at a buffet. Yeah. They run out of wonton soup. You got egg drop soup right here, right? Yeah. It's not like the money goes away. Oh, they ran out of it. No, the money for NIL is still there. It's still there. It doesn't go away. And you can still use that. You're not supposed to use it in recruitment, but it's still there. But we know it's.
Well, look, that's what everybody does, and the quote, that organization that has no intestinal fortitude, no reason for existence, really, the NCAA, should just go ahead and say, hey, you know what? It is what it is. Let's quit the charade and just let everybody do what they need to do.
The other topic from the weekend that I'm not going to take as the sky is falling, because that's how some people like to react to everything. You lose a game, they still haven't hired a defensive coordinator. For whatever reason, and will we get an update later on today from Billy? Potentially. If there's an update to be had, he'll give it to us, at least to the premium boards. When it happens, it happens. I obviously there's a sense of urgency, but there's still time to work.
I'm still of the belief that Mike Elko knows who his defensive coordinator is. I don't know that for a fact, but I'm of the belief that it's probably been agreed to, and it's just a matter of tying up some loose ends or waiting for the right days contract-wise or something like that. And if he doesn't know who it is exactly, he knows it's either going to be this guy or this guy.
Or this guy.
And I think it's going to be, well, it will be announced soon. I don't know if it'll be today. I don't know if it'll be tomorrow, but I think it'll be soon because that's what you have to do.
Yep. By the way, we will on the 20th, which is what? We're 9 days away from signing day. We'll have a 4-hour show that day starting at 7 a.m.
I wonder where I'll be that day.
They send you places.
Yeah, last year I went down to El Campo, talked to Ruben Owens.
Ruben Owens, yeah.
Which, by the way, he's a guy I'd lose some sleep over if he went into the portal. Because I think
we haven't heard that, have we?
No.
Okay.
I said if.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, some guys come in and you go, because I just see so much ability there. We saw flashes of it. But, yeah, last year I went there. This year, who knows? Could I be going to someplace in East Texas?
Do you request where you go?
No, it's on pretty much on between Broniger and Billy. Like last year, the night before signing day, like 9 o'clock, I was about to go to bed because, I'm old. And I get a call from Broniger, hey, we need you to go to El Campo. Wait. And you couldn't tell me this yesterday? You're just now. So I did say my only request, I don't care where you're sending me, just give me a little bit of heads up.
Unless it's breaking news is about to develop, and we need our top reporter there, OB. Amazingly, somebody says, you know what? I want to go to A&M out of the blue.
Wouldn't that be awesome?
I didn't like seeing Draylen Miller decide to go to Colorado. That was not fun to see.
He'll be back.
You think before signing day back?
Well, not necessarily that. But, guys, doesn't it seem like a lot of guys, as many guys as Colorado brings in, it seems like they lose the same amount?
Yeah. We'll see if they can put the full court press on there. If you want to be a part of the conversation this morning, you can do it multiple ways. You can call us up on the Brian Foley Law Hotline, 979-693-1150, or you can text us on the text line, 979-693-1150. Let's go around the room and say hello to the people. We go behind the glass and say hi to Nick Savage. Nick, good morning, buddy.
Howdy, good morning, y'all.
What's going on in your world,
I feel like it's been a while since I've gotten to talk to you since Luke Evangelos ran the show on Friday. But
flawless job by Luke.
Nothing caught on fire, so it's good to be back.
Yeah, he did a really nice job. What do you think about sports-wise this morning?
Well, what y'all are talking about guys that come from the JUCO ranks, and I guess somebody that comes to mind off the top of my head is a guy like Jay Sternberger. He came here, had his 1 year, and was a vital piece. So hopefully Will Lee can be something like that for the Aggies. And also when it comes to, I guess, transfer portal commits, stuff like that. What do you think of Mike Elko's tweets he put out there whenever he gets a commit? The lock, yeah.
I like it.
Love to see it.
Look, unfortunately, I say unfortunately, it is a game to be played on social media. There's a momentum game because 18 to 22-year-olds, actually everybody, old men too, are influenced by what they see on social media. And momentum matters to a lot of people.
Yeah.
Even though you behind the scenes can know the reality, the truth of the situation, like you may lose a guy and maybe the coaching staff wanted him to leave, right? But social media out there, that does happen. Social media makes you feel, you lost another one, A&M.
Yeah, and that's why I say don't even, as an A&M fan, as a program, and I know this is how it is as a program, especially under Elko, but I wouldn't even – you can't get bent out of shape and get involved right now in the Twitter wars and all those things.
Yep.
Because everybody has scoreboard on you right now. They do.
They do.
And so, what I was coaches used to say is don't even look at the scoreboard, just go to work.
Yep.
Just go to work, and that's how you change it. And I think that's what Mike Elko was doing. By the way, Josh Reynolds was another JUCO guy. There's a bunch of good JUCO guys that came here and were stars. Do you know there's been, to my knowledge, probably more, but to my knowledge, there are 3 Heisman Trophy winners that were JUCO players?
Go through them with me.
Well,
Cam?
4. See? There's 4. I was thinking of Mike Rozier.
Mike Rozier.
O.J. Simpson.
He's a JUCO guy?
Yeah, he started at like San Francisco.
Oh, that's right.
College.
I did know that. Yeah.
And the one that shocks everybody, Roger Staubach.
Roger
Staubach.
Huh.
First year at New Mexico Military Institute.
And then
the Naval Academy.
And then Heisman.
And then
well,
Heisman.
And
then
the team you love.
Your Dallas Cowboys. Who beat the Philadelphia Eagles last night.
Did they?
They did.
What was the score?
33-13, if my memory serves, and I know it does.
Do me a favor.
Yes.
Don't remind me of what happened in New York yesterday.
What happened in New York
No,
yesterday?
that's why I said don't remind me.
Okay.
The New York Jets beat the Texans.
Oh, they did.
They hammered them.
And Zach Wilson played really well.
He did. Not good times.
Maybe that's going to set up, a
Jags
good
lost
weekend.
too.
A good weekend. What'd you say?
The Jags?
Oh,
what'd you think? Oh, never mind.
I said a good weekend for New York because maybe the Giants will win tonight.
Maybe so. And how often do you root for the Giants?
Very seldom, but I will tonight.
Yeah.
Because I want them to win enough to mess up their draft pick now that they're no longer a threat.
Right. Let's go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center.
With Giants fan.
Luke Evangelist is a Giants fan?
Yeah.
Oh,
unfortunately.
How did that happen?
Well, my family's from New York, New Jersey area, so it was kind of bestowed on me at birth, so I didn't have a choice. But first of all, I want to say that I'm really excited about the new commitment. But I want to talk basketball. I want to shift gears to A&M basketball being 1-0 on the weekend. That's the women's team. They're 9-1. They just beat Robert Morris by 31 points for their 9th win of the season, which matches their win total from all of last season. They're on a 7-game winning streak, and they're beating teams by an average of 31 points on that winning streak. They also beat 3 Power 5 teams in a row from 3 different conferences for the first time since 2015. Those were wins over Cal, Wake Forest, and Kansas. And then their first SEC game is January 4th at Georgia against Joni Taylor's old team.
Nice job, Joni Taylor.
She's great, isn't she?
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, we haven't gotten into it, and we will this hour. The basketball team, the men's basketball team, struggled a little bit. Luke, would you like to give us the particulars?
Yeah, so the particulars, all you need to know is that A&M shot 18% from 3 and Memphis shot 41%. So if you're good at math, you would know that one of those numbers is really big and one of those numbers is really small. So A&M, unfortunately, was on the bad end of that. Wade Taylor and Boots Radford were combined 0 for 14 from 3. And Memphis out-rebounded Texas A&M 35-33.
That was a surprise.
That was the number that surprised me. Yeah, absolutely. Look, when A&M loses games, teams hit threes.
Mm-hmm.
Often, right?
Yeah.
But very rarely do I feel like the team's going to out-rebound A&M. They had turnovers, they had fouls, and they shot poorly from 3, and the other team shot great from 3, or good enough from 3.
A&M offensively is very streaky, and they can go out and shoot 61% and a half like they did against DePaul and finish the game with 14 threes, and then they can come back and not be able to make one and shoot, like you said, 18%. But, 41% from 3, what do you think that equates to? If it was – I mean, that's like shooting 60% if you're – when you consider the point value, right? That's amazing because 33% is considered very good. Because 33% from 3 would equate to 50% for 2, right? Man, talk about being on fire. They had that kid David Jones, especially in the first half. I don't know if A&M, what took them so long to adjust to him and just say, hey, if he doesn't have the ball in his hand, let's put somebody on him just to make sure he doesn't get the ball in his hands.
Obi, if I remember correctly, on Friday you told us got to watch out for Javon Quinterly.
Yeah.
Because when A&M played them last year, the game that they won, they kept him in check, and the game that they lost, he went off.
Yeah.
He wasn't the main guy yesterday, but he was pretty darn good. 24 points.
24, he was really good. And now Manny Obaski came out, and he really stepped up his game. He played well, scored 21 points. But look, and I get Boots Radford was playing his first game. It's really been out 4 games because he went out. He missed 3 completely, and he went out real early.
Early
in
the other one. Yep.
But let's just say it. A&M has to have more from from Wade Taylor. And this is your SEC preseason player of the year, and he's going 0 for 9 from three-point range, and he has 4 turnovers, and that's supposed to be your best player. Well, and so he's going to have to you can't add a guy like Obaski just can't compensate for that.
Well, the thing is, Penny Hardaway.
Henry Coleman got 5 shots.
Yeah. That when they take out both of your top options, that's the problem, right? And what I think Penny Hardaway did so brilliantly, and teams have done this year and will continue to do, is get the ball out of Wade's hands. And then when he does get the ball, he feels rushed. He's not in rhythm. And that's exactly what has happened several times this year, but very apparent yesterday afternoon.
Well, you just said it's happened several times this year. Well, what do you do about that? That's why you have a highly regarded coach to figure that out.
Well, and to Buzz's credit, he usually does figure it out. It takes some time with this team the last couple of years. They're not at their best at the beginning of the year.
They're 7-3 and 2-2 in quad one games, so it's not like
they're fine.
I mean, they had a disappointing loss, but it's not. I mean, don't anybody crawl out on the ledge.
How are we going to feel if they beat Houston next weekend?
Then we're going to be on top of the world.
We asked for them to at least split. That is still possible. A loss to Houston would be bad, but you can overcome it with your SEC schedule. All right, let's hit a break. When we come back here on TexAgs Radio, let's revisit the 3 things we wanted to see over the weekend. And we got some other little things I want to get into, OB. Maybe a little Heisman talk as well. We'll get back into the basketball game. So much to get into here. Right now, though, I was happy to start off the segment because I talked about the blanket, right? Blanket made me feel good. Then I felt bad after a loss in basketball. So I want to feel good again, OB.
Yeah.
And I know you feel good with your Cowboys.
Yeah.
But if you wanted to feel good with some kind of breaking of bread, if you will, how would you do that?
Well, I'd probably go to Fargo's.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because, blanket, very comfortable. Yeah. Well, it's like comfort food.
Yeah.
Especially on Tuesdays and Saturdays where you get the rib tips, my favorite.
Yeah.
But again, I've told you before how much I like the chopped beef, and we've had the pork ribs, and they're great. And of course, you can get that chopped beef that I like so much. You can get it on a baked potato one day.
Yes, you can. Yeah, you can.
I think that's on Wednesday. You can get a couple of big fat pork chops on, not fatty, but you know what I mean, big pork
I actually
chops.
like the fatty parts.
On Tuesday, and then on Thursday and on Friday, you can get the 4 C's, the catfish, the coleslaw, the corn, and the crunchy hush puppies. And then Saturday, you can go back for some rib tips again.
You can go back for some rib tips.
Man,
again.
that's comfort. That's comfort food right there.
You call it meat dessert.
I do. So you can get your blanket and your comforter.
See, we got to find somebody to be the comforter on this Aggie defense, by the way. Fargo, 1701 South Texas Avenue in Bryan, without a doubt, the Wood.
The best barbecue in Texas, i.e. the world.
Believe it or not, that is their trademark.
Well, it's true.
Well, it's Fargo's.
What'd you do this weekend, Ob?
What did I do? Let's see. I didn't do much anything on Saturday. But I, covered basketball yesterday, and then came home and watched the Cowboys.
That was a good night for you, buddy.
Yeah, it was a great night.
Birthday weekend.
It was, even though I didn't do anything. It's funny because two of the nicest people I've ever met played offensive line for the Philadelphia Eagles.
Is that right?
Yeah. Jerry Sizemore,
who
played at Texas,
and
Kenneth Reeves, who played at Texas A&M. Great people. Just one. And yet, because they played for the Eagles,
you had to root against them.
I always now they're wonderful people, but they were the enemy.
Yeah, of course.
As a Cowboys fan, there's no team I like beating more than the Philadelphia Eagles.
Do people still like? I know there's the A&M, LSU, A&M, Texas kind of. You want them to lose all the time, right? But like in pro sports, do people like Luke's age, Nick's age? Do they like? Are there rivalries that you just hate teams?
I think so. I think Luke probably hates the
Cowboys.
The Cowboys. Yep. Maybe even the Eagles.
Yep.
Like hate though, like
yeah.
Okay.
It's just not as much because my team sucks. So I already go into the game knowing they're not going to win. So the rivalry is kind of like losing its luster for me. But when the Giants are good and you're playing the Cowboys, I'm not doing anything else other than actively rooting against the Cowboys. And then if the Cowboys are playing someone else, I'm rooting for that other team.
I know the Raiders and Chiefs still have this thing going where they hate each other.
Yeah.
It goes back for decades, but.
What did you think of Patrick Mahomes yesterday?
I thought that he was
or his press conference, I should say.
Yeah, I thought he was pretty whiny.
Yeah.
Look, your guy was offsides. It wasn't even close. And you want the referee to go, excuse me, you're offsides, back up. Well, they will do that if you check.
Ask. Yeah.
But I mean, did you see the play that they should have? Was they won it or forced overtime? It was.
They would have won it.
Yeah, it was remarkable.
Yeah.
It was like that Boise State against Oklahoma.
Oh, that play, yeah.
Oh, it was beautiful. I mean, it wasn't that play, but it was similar. It was Travis Kelce catching the ball and running, and he throws the ball backwards. It was just beautiful. But your guy was offsides.
Yeah.
I mean, you couldn't even argue it. So are we to the point now where, like basketball, where you say, well, the game's on the line, you shouldn't make that call, even if it's a foul. You shouldn't call it. Why not?
If it's a foul in the beginning, it's the foul at the end.
And if the guy is a yard, if he's offsides, he's offsides.
Right.
I always say, would Pat Mahomes be complaining had his team lost and on a play where the other team was offsides?
By the way, that is Coffee Talk presented by TexAgs Coffee. Beat the hell out of morning by going to texags.com/coffee. I just finished my TexAgs coffee. Put it down here. 100 cups in front of me, so I apologize for that. Obi, let's quickly get into 3 things we want to see revisited. I had a few things. Do you remember yours?
Well, I know I wanted to see Tyrese Radford back in the lineup.
And you got that?
And I got that. He finished with, 6, 8, 9 points. So, but just having him back, I think, gives you a reason to feel pretty good moving forward. I probably said something about the 3-point line because I usually do, and I didn't get that at all.
Yeah. Well, I was one of 3 of mine.
Okay.
All right. The first one, a defensive coordinator named this weekend. I didn't get that.
Didn't get it.
Okay. A transfer of substance,
that.
coming in. Yeah, and Will Lee. And then more outside shooting versus Memphis, which unfortunately Memphis did the outside shooting, not Texas A&M.
Yeah, Memphis was really – they were getting guys open and making shots.
It's been a problem for A&M. In a lot of losses, that's been a problem. And I think the most glaring one is from last year, the Penn State game.
Yeah, the Penn State game. Yeah, that was.
And that was a game where A&M continued to shoot threes, continued to miss. What happened yesterday?
Yeah, they shot a lot of threes, missed a lot of threes, gave up a lot of threes. And now they have 3 losses.
Yeah, unfortunately they do. All right, let's hit a break. We'll come back. A little more defensive coordinator talk, a little more football talk. Also want to talk to OB about his Heisman vote. I know he talked a little bit about it leading up to it. He didn't say who he's going to vote for. Early on, you were leaning in a direction, and then you tweeted out who you did vote for.
Yes.
So we'll talk about that. Right now, though, Caldwell Country Chevrolet, they're on Highway 21. They're in Caldwell, and they are online at caldwellcountrychevrolet.com. If you want a great deal on your new vehicle, that's where you want to go. If you want to get a great trade-in value, that is where you want to go. Caldwell Country Chevrolet has got it all out there. They got the great selection of vehicles, the great customer service, and that customer service starts before you get there, during the process, and after the process, because they do have complimentary pickup service for all their customers, and they are a proud sponsor of Aggie Athletics. They've been doing it for a long, long time, and that's why Aggies all over the place have been going to Caldwell Country Chevrolet. Billy, myself, Dante Hall, R.C. Slocum, all have bought vehicles there from Caldwell Country Chevrolet. And let's not forget, it is not a far drive, guys. We're talking about 15 minutes from the very edge of Bryan to the very beginnings of Caldwell. Just a short conversation away, but you will see the difference when you step on the lot and you do business with the great people there at Caldwell Country Chevrolet. They are located on Highway 21 in Caldwell and online at caldwellcountrychevrolet.com.
We weren't terrible at anything. We just weren't good enough. We didn't reach our average in offensive rebound percentage. We didn't reach our average in defensive rebound percentage. We fouled way too much, particularly in the first half. It kind of got back settled in the second half. Our turnover percentage was way too high. And as we talked about the other day, all of those things for us, they're all interconnected. And so turning the ball over 17% of the time, that's too high because that's going to negatively impact our offensive rebound percentage. I mean, I think it was 49% going into the night, and we finished at 38%. It's just, in a 2-possession game, those margins, we were too inconsistent.
Buzz Williams there yesterday after the loss to Memphis. TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Go Hour, presented by the Warehouse at CC Creations. Obi, I think...
Sound like my accountant doing my taxes.
Yeah. I think rhythm is overused sometimes, but I really do think that is when you foul a lot, and there's not one thing that can tell you everything, right? Like, when you foul a lot, it doesn't always mean this, but when you foul a lot, often you're out of position, right? Often.
Yeah.
When you miss a bunch of shots and you're used to making a bunch of shots, there's multiple reasons. It could be mental. You start missing some, and then it could be because you're rushing. It looks like you have a thought.
No, I'm listening.
I'm just saying.
I'm taking in what you're saying.
But I think a lot of that is happening to this team, who's not a really good. They're a streaky shooting team.
They are streaky.
And when they're good, they're really good.
Yes.
Right? But they're not a good shooting team. They're not like, I don't think of them as a 3-point shooting team. Even 3-point shooting team. The Golden State Warriors had off nights. The Aggies are not the Warriors. No. They're not a 3-point shooting team. And if they're not in rhythm, if they're missing shots, it becomes a huge problem.
Yeah, it does. And it happens more than once because you're right. They're streaky. A good shooting team is consistent. They're consistent. A&M's just not consistent. But Buzz acknowledged that, their inconsistencies. Now, I think they're going to be streaky all year.
Yep.
Now, what you want to do, though, is, get to a point where you're on the good side of a streak more often. And then maybe, I'm no coach. Well, what do I know? But maybe, you have to acknowledge sometimes when you're having one of those games and stop hoisting up 3-pointers.
So I do know that coaches want you to take good open shots. Okay. Even if you miss a bunch, right? A good shooter. But if you're starting to rush those shots, they don't want you taking that shot either. Yeah. They want you to take good open shots.
I think A&M could be a little more selective, from my point of view. What do I know? But I do know one time, it seemed like I saw, Luke will probably remember this, Wade Taylor took one and looked like he was 30 feet out. I don't know how far he was out. Now, I've seen him make them from way out. Not just the line. I'm talking about way past the line. I've seen him make them, but maybe there are times when, they should be more selective.
There are often times I watch basketball, and I think this generation of basketball, there's a lot more shoot it, like mentality. Like, I don't care. 8 people on you, shoot it. There are many times I've watched a game, and I'm like, that's not the right shot. And they make it. And then you feel like, if you say it out, like, don't take that. Oh, yeah, you made it, right? Yeah. Like, it doesn't make it the right shot. But the right shot, I'm okay with them missing that. If it's in rhythm and you're open in the corner, the ball moves around and you get it and you take it and you miss it, right? Mm-hmm. But if it's and there's certain guys, I don't necessarily want having a green light all the time.
That's true.
But that being said, I love Solo. I love what he brings. I love what Manny brings. Those guys have hit some threes recently. But I don't think everybody should have the green light.
I agree with that, and I think what you do is, and I think A&M's has done a good job of this in the last couple of years, and we'll probably do it again, is adjusting to what happens in the from what you see, and then start saying, okay, so and so, this is your shot. Take this shot, and this is your shot. You can take this shot, but don't take, in a game, don't be taking the pass off. You're not going to make this one. And I still go back to a couple of years ago when A&M said, hey, what we're doing is not working. Here's what's best for us. Let's attack the basket with these 2 guys, get fouled, get layups, guys score off of what they've done. And I'm not saying that's what they're going to do this year. Sure. Of course, I was talking about Wade and Quentin Jackson, but I'm not saying that's what they're going to do this year. But I think, this is still as hard as it is to take. because that would have been a really big win. But this is still a process of figuring out who's going to be able to do what, who can you count on to do this.
Right.
You know, let's still find out where we're best at, you know, for when SEC play starts.
Good people could have a bad day. When that happens, call Brian Foley Law, serving Houston, the Woodlands, Conroe, and the Brazos Valley. Again, that is the Brian Foley Law hotline if you want to be part of the conversation. Let's go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. Luke Evangelist, I know some questions have come in. One kind of piqued my interest.
Yep, the YouTube chat is being active as always. Pura Vida asked, did you and OB feel
Say
like...
that again?
Did you and OB feel like...
No, the name. Pura Vida.
I'm not... Yeah, never mind. You can't bully me today, David. I'm just going to ask your question.
Yes, sir.
Did you and OB feel like Jimbo Fisher gave you real answers to your questions, answers that were the real status of the program, or was it just an answer to brush off the questions?
Let me start, and then you go, OB, because I have a different perspective than you. When I first got to A&M, well, when I got to this job at TexAgs covering Jimbo, I thought it was a breath of fresh air because I felt like he did answer questions when I asked. The reason I say that, I had just spent the last, 2014 through 20 covering Bill O'Brien, who never answered anything. Okay? I had covered Kevin McHale, who kind of gave you some good answers. A.J. Hinch gave you some pretty good answers. But when it came to football, I remember getting, and towards the end of Gary Kubiak, he didn't give you as much, right? Gary was always class, always awesome. Wade Phillips kind of gave you some stuff, but I felt like each year covering the NFL, they gave you less and less, right? So when I got to A&M, I was like, man, this guy actually feels like he's talking to me when he's answering these questions. After having some time around, I realized he's not really answering that much, but he doesn't have to. Like, this is not a legal proceeding, right? He's going to say the information that he wants out there. I'm not a prosecutor. I'm asking a question. He answers a question. And he answered it the way he feels fit for the information that he wants out there. So I never had a problem with the way Jimbo answered. Some people wanted us to hold him to the fire more often. There is no fire. I want to be invited back to the next press conference. I want to have access to it. But there are questions that we have to ask. And you were really good about asking those questions that had to be asked. And he would answer it the way he needed to answer it for his needs.
I think Jimbo Fisher gave really good answers for about 3.5 years. And I think that Jimbo Fisher, as A&M started to struggle, became defensive. And he started answering questions like a politician, in which he would talk a lot and say very little. And I thought Jimbo Fisher would have served himself well if he would have just slowed down. And I don't mean his
speaking. You mean just?
I mean, think about what you're saying. I can remember after the Tennessee game asking him something about why Aggie should still believe in him, and he starts talking about all he cares about is the players. He doesn't care about the donors, and then changing his tune. But mostly, I believe Jimbo Fisher didn't give you straight answers toward the end because he didn't have any answers. He didn't know how to fix what was the problem. He just, other than saying, hey, let's bring in somebody else and let him fix it.
Right.
Because it became a punchline. When he sounded like a parrot that he learned the word execute and inches. Execute, inches, execute, inches. He had no more answers.
Can we keep that?
And that's why I don't think you got good answers. I think you got to a point he did not have the answers. And again, as fans, as Texas A&M fans, I can only imagine how frustrating it was to listen to your coach, and for 2 years,
let me ask you this.
execute. You got to execute.
If your team wins, like as a fan, does it feel like your coach answers questions?
I don't know if New England Patriots fans ever thought Belichick was answering questions.
This is true. All right, let me ask you this. Which coach really gives you thoughtful answers? I'm not saying here in town necessarily, although it can be. Like I think Jamie Morrison answers questions. Joni answers questions. But I'm saying like football-wise, are there a lot of, like Lane Kiffin, does he answer questions? Lane has an act.
I'm not around him enough to know.
Right.
Right.
I feel like Nick Saban, I'm sorry to nick him, Nick Saban sometimes answers questions, and sometimes he plays the game.
I'll tell you the one guy I have limited interaction with, but every time I've asked him a question, he's given what I thought were direct, honest. I'll tell you somebody, Joni Taylor. You ask her a question, she gives you a succinct answer, direct answer.
Yep.
I think.
But football, what football coach?
Well, I was going to say the baseball coach here.
Oh, Schloss.
Yeah.
Schloss is great.
RC always gave you straight answers when I dealt with him way back when.
But just from watching television over the last 10 years, it's less common to hear coaches actually answer questions.
Well, I think there's truth to that, because I think part of it is coaches have become, maybe it's because there's so much money and they're trying to protect their salaries and things like that, have become so guarded that, that they don't want to give straight answers. Maybe part of it is, hey, I don't ever want to look like I'm criticizing a player. I don't even want it to come off that way, because then there's the transfer portal and and it's going to hurt me in recruiting and all these things.
Sandman on YouTube brings up 3 names, and I want you to react to them.
Okay.
Saban always hits different. Harbaugh, primetime. I feel like primetime is a shtick.
Yeah, I kind of do too, and maybe that's not fair, because all I'm seeing is things that come over.
Yeah.
I'm not in the press conferences. One time before an A&M game, a game against A&M, because I was looking for a quote, and I listened to a Sam Pittman press conference. Sam Pittman struck me as being very honest and to the point.
By the way, Mike Elko, first couple moments of here, I've been like, this dude answers some questions.
Yeah, let's see how it goes. But I really believe that in the last 2 years, Jimbo was frustrated because he was trying to find the answers. He could not figure out how to rescue this team, and all he could come back with is, we've got to execute. Well, no crap. Every team has to execute.
Yeah.
And that's all he kept coming back with, because the problem was in the mirror and he wasn't looking there.
One other thing that Sandman says, primetime is being himself, in my opinion. That's just his personality.
Okay.
But he's become a caricature of himself, and that happens often.
All I see, and I've learned this a long time ago, don't judge anybody by the 20-second sound bites or everything that you see on television. If I can't comment on that, because I'm not there every day or every week.
All right, let's hit a break here. Right now, don't go through another year with that awful joint pain. Call QC Kinetics. Those guys are great. Seriously. And make 2024 the year that you're living back to your normal life once again, because when you call QC Kinetics, they're going to put you through some awesomeness, right? You're going to be feeling great. They are the nation's leader in regenerative medicine. They're all natural treatments that can repair and restore that damaged tissue, giving you pain-free movement once again. So they've got tens of thousands of satisfied patients, and many right here in the Brazos Valley, people who have knee pain, shoulder pain, hip pain, wherever that pain may be. You can get lasting relief with no surgery, which is awesome, no drugs, and no downtime. If you got pain from an old injury or pain associated with arthritis, you need to check out the future of medicine, and that is regenerative treatments through our friends at QC Kinetics. Call them right now so you can get the most out of 2024 and get back to doing what you love to do, whatever that may be. If it's playing softball, if it's throwing the ball around in the front yard with your kids, whatever it is, don't forget you can use your HSA and FSA funds. Call QC Kinetics right now for a free consultation. 979-452-6000. QC Kinetics, 979-452-6000. That's 979-452-6000. Hey, everybody. TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio Go Hour, presented by The Warehouse at CC Creations. OB, you probably have never done this. If you ever go down on accident, and I say accident because it was an accident for me, watching a video of people fighting, like normal people fighting, your algorithm will force that down your throat on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it. I just caught myself watching somebody get beat up. So
somebody has I guess they call it X now, and his name's Steve Inman, I think, and he like voices over fights.
Oh, is that right?
And I love it.
Well, now that it heard us talk about it, from sure it's going to show up on my feed. So, OB, as we close out the Go Hour, best part of the Aggie weekend. Joni Taylor's Aggie women, 9-1. Will Lee. Yeah.
Will Lee. I mean, I'm really impressed what Joni Taylor's doing. I'm not going to get too excited about beating Bobby Moe.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm really impressed with and not surprised by the improvement they've made. But I'm still a football guy, and you hear so much about the guys going out, and then you bring in a guy that apparently is a very quality player coming in, high quality player.
What about Donovan Wilson, OB?
Well, I was glad to see all that he. How about? And I hate that he did against my team, but how about the former punter here throwing a pass?
Braden Mann. Beautiful pass.
Yeah.
Thank you, OB. Appreciate you.
All right.
Hour number 2 is going to have Brandon Leone, Billy Liucci. 10 o'clock, we'll have Buzz
Italian
Williams.
Hour.
The Italian Hour. All that and more is TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. And we are back, TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. Interestingly, today I'm seeing a lot of Cowboy shirts being worn around. I saw Olin Buchanan with his Cowboys hoodie, and now I see Alpha Paving's best man out there, Brandon Leone, on the Brian Foley Law Hotline, sporting his Cowboys shirt. What's up, Brandon? How you doing, buddy?
Nuño, how are you?
I'm good, buddy. You've been busy.
Been really busy, man. It's been a busy year, man, but a blessed year for the family. And yeah, man, getting ready to make the move up to Dallas from Houston and take on this new venture within the company. So yeah, and then throw on top of that, my only really hobby outside of my wife and kids and church is Aggie Football. So it's been an interesting year as that goes, for sure.
Buddy, we sound very similar, except, what's it called? I made the move to College Station. You're making the move to the Metroplex. Let's chit-chat a little bit about things in Aggieland, man. So I don't think we have spoken on radio, at least, since the hire and the vibe. So a lot has happened since Mike Elko has been hired. So I just want to get your, like, broad feeling of everything happening and where we are today.
I mean, the broad feeling is, and we're way past this. I think we've processed all these emotions, but you and I haven't talked since LSU. Just disappointment with how the previous era wrapped up. All the potential was there. I think Billy talked about it with you, just top 5 in the country in 2020, follow up with some great recruiting classes, and then you go 5-7, you go 7-5, and you pay out one of the worst contracts, I think, in a long time. But the reality is credit to Ross and the athletic department. They stepped in and said, this is not it. And so we moved on and got Mike Elko. I'm a huge fan of the hire. I'm a huge fan of him. I think you could kind of start to see really our program trend downward once he left. And I remember that first year whenever he was, getting approached by Temple and some of them, I kept saying, like, your number one recruit is Mike Elko. Keep Mike Elko. Just because the way we played defense was physical, it was aggressive. We stopped the run. I'm excited to see who he brings in as DC and how we adjust to the spread kind of up tempo, how that's going to go. But as far as just a tough brand of football, which Aggies like, I think that's going to be something that we'll see a lot of with Mike Elko. We already saw that previously. And then the other side of it, man, is like, it was so impressive how he navigated all those initial press conferences, how active he's been with the Texas High School Coaches Association, how active he's been in the portal. And he's handling so many things right now. But ultimately, he's a get crap done kind of guy. And I just really think that that's what we need. All the talk and all that stuff's got to go. This dude's a football guy. He's been like that in his entire career, and I'm extremely impressed with him, and I think he's going to do big things.
Brandon, look, I don't mean this as a shot at anybody, but I don't feel like you need that much to be successful at A&M. Like that sounds like everything is already here in place. You get a guy that develops and has a good plan. I think you're going to see, look, the national, I'm not saying it's extremely hard to win a national championship and get invited to the 4-team playoff, which is changing, obviously. But I'm saying for what we need, this next step of getting to 10 wins often, I don't feel like it takes a brain surgeon to do that with the resources and the people that come here.
It doesn't. It takes someone that's consistent day in and day out with their activity, with the things that they do, working hard. And, leadership comes from the top down. And Mike Elko oozes leadership everywhere he's gone. His players have loved him. His assistants have loved him. And, we didn't really get to see much of him in the past because of Jimbo's, not strategy, but just his thought process towards coordinators and other people speaking besides him. And now you see him, and he's so impressive. I mean, again, I think the thing to me, Nuño, that is the most impressive to me about Elko is he has gratitude for the position that he's been given. Like, as a university, we entrusted Jimbo Fisher with the keys and a really nice paycheck to an amazing program. Like you said, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You have all the resources necessary, a foundation to come in and build upon it. You just got to make the right hires. I mean, golly, LSU was trash forever until they hired Nick Saban. There's a lot of these programs, Utah, garbage for a really long time. And they brought in a young Urban Meyer, from Bowling Green. And then look what he went on to do at Florida. Sometimes you're just one hire away from the program kind of taking that next step. And we're all hoping, obviously, that Elko's that guy. And I think he has the potential to be. But, yeah, man, just get in there. Get a staff of guys that work hard, that understand what's in front of you, understand the resources you have and the fans and the support you have behind you, and just go get it done. And so far, it seems like, again, this is early, right? We're just talking a few weeks into the hire. He's doing a lot of good things. I think Colin Klein was an extremely impressive hire. Very, very, very happy with that.
Talking to Brandon Leone here on TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner Jewelers. What do you think the right approach is with kids these days? Because they have options, they have NIL, they have the portal, they've got all you got to be somewhat of a disciplinarian, but also got to be like a big brother or a father figure. Like, there's what do you think is the right approach with how to handle these kids at this time?
Man, it is. It's a whole new world, right? Straight Aladdin style. I mean, it's just completely different now for coaches than what it was years ago. And the fact that these kids can enter the portal, take some visits, and get some cash, or try and see if someone's going to pay them more. I mean, it changes everything. And look, some of these kids, and just even how I grew up, the scholarship is not enough. Sometimes you need more, and so you can't get mad at kids now that the system has been put in place for them to leverage their skill sets, their talents, and NIL to go get money. But to me, the thing that you have to do, and this is going to be my approach, and when I go to Dallas and I'm trying to attract top talent, like Justin Lanham and some of these super gifted guys, Grant Ware, who I just hired, you have to make people feel and see that you believe in them, that it's not just about you, that you have a plan in place for them to excel and to be the best, to utilize what they have. So you kind of make it about them, even though it's not. Like, hey, everything that you want is right here. If you come to Texas A&M in the SEC and the SEC West, we have resources. I don't know anything about NIL, but I'm sure they're, helping guys get the best that they can get. But if you come here and you play well and you learn from the best, you get trained by the best, you get one of the best educations in the world, your next step is going to be great in life, whether that's the NFL or whether you graduate and you become a professional, start your own business, whatever. You can leverage. There's enough eyeballs on you at Texas A&M University, right, that you can leverage all your giftings if you steward them well and work your tail off. There's nothing that you can't achieve at Texas A&M as a football player. But, if you're just walking around expecting handouts the whole time, then move on. Because I do believe that there's enough young men still in this world that do want to work hard and that want to, do things the right way. Be a Nia Smith type guy,
Talking to Brandon Leone on the Brian Foley Law Hotline. Brandon, what about this? Like, when existing kids decide to stay, but they're used to a certain country club atmosphere. I'm not saying that Jimbo had a country club, but maybe certain rules were not enforced, and then that changes. How hard do you think that is for young players to kind of figure out, is that a hard adjustment when it's been a certain way for a few years?
Absolutely. I mean, you're a parent. I mean, I liken it to parenting, right? Like, delayed obedience is disobedience. When you're shepherding the hearts of kids or young adults, you have to let them know who's in charge. Right? And so to me, when these guys are used to having everything they want, or coaches aren't there, or, they don't have to come to meetings on time, all you're doing is setting them up for failure in the future. I don't care how great they are. And so I don't know what stories are true of someone showing up late to a meeting and getting kicked out. I don't know if any of that stuff's true, but I do believe that should be the expectation. You, no matter how talented you are a small piece in a big puzzle. We want you here. We think you're a great player, but you can't not do what's expected of you and think you're just going to get a free ride here. I love setting a foundation of leadership. But hopefully that's what we're doing right now.
Especially early on, right? Like day one.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. You have to. And listen, and you make it about them. Like, hey, I'm not trying to be an a-hole. Here's the expectation. You get one warning. And if you go outside the lines, it's a wrap. If you create that culture from the top down, do you see people doing this to Nick Saban at Alabama? It's not happening. Nick Saban's like, oh, okay, you're cool. See you later. There's 75 5-stars waiting to get in the door. Now, look, Elko has to prove himself. Obviously, we're not at that level yet, but winning attracts that. But then you have to create that culture. You have to set the tone as a leader. And hopefully that's what we're going to do. Because goodness gracious, not just college football, the entire world needs that right now in a big way, dude. You gotta have expectations and rules and follow them.
Well, Brandon, you're going to be a new leader now, right? You're going to have people who report to you. So you're going to have to walk that same walk, right? And you're going to have to establish and not go overcompensate because you're new at your position, but you're going to have to set a certain expectation from now.
Absolutely. No, and I mean, golly, next time you have Justin on, talk to him about how I try to love and lead people through it. Like, we're going to be firm, we're going to be stern, we're going to have expectations, but we're going to do it together in a way that you want to be there. Like, you want to be part of this team because we're going to do great things and we're going to do everything that we can. Like, I look at it like this. Like, I talk to Justin and any new hires that I have, like, what do you want? You know, like asphalt and concrete, it's just a means to an end. Like, this is just something for me to bless my family, to bless other people's families, and to have a life outside of work. I love it. I didn't never think I'd like this thing. But like, I talk to people like, what kind of money do you want to make? Because if that's the number you want to be at as a family, if this is your goals, well, then let's work backwards. What are the activities necessary on a daily basis, weekly basis, monthly basis to get there? And then you walk alongside them. You hold them accountable. You challenge them. You celebrate wins. When they're going the wrong way, you bring them back to the right way. You lead them, right? And then they don't feel like they're being babysitted or, you know, you're just hovering down on them. They feel like you are there for them to uplift them to be better. And that's what hopefully this coaching staff will do. And I think that's the way you get to the heart of these kids in this crazy, selfish, entitled culture.
Colin Klein, have you had a chance to read up on him, what he's been able to do at Kansas State? Obviously, you know his history in college football and the Heisman vote that came close with Johnny. Just what do you think, man? What have you heard? What have you read?
Love that he's young. Love that he's up and coming. Love that he comes from Bill Snyder, you know, like Kansas State, work ethic, mindset. Love with all my soul that he's 91% in the red zone. How many times did we get to the red zone and not finish the job, right? If you get inside the 20, you got to score touchdowns. You got to go get points. He's balanced. He obviously is creative in the run game. You can see some of the things they do with the jet sweep. I wonder how the jet sweep will do in the SEC, but if it's blocked right, you know, and you have linemen that understand it and your guys are smart, I think it can still be effective when you have good athletes. But, I mean, golly, he puts up top 25 offense in Kansas State. Obviously, it's the Big 12, so it'll be different in the SEC, but he's obviously a proven success as a quarterback himself and has done a great job with Kansas State, you know, conference championship. And so I think he's going to do really good things. I'm excited about it.
Talking to Brandon Leone here on the Brian Foley Law Hotline, you said if they block it right. To me, Brandon, I hate to simplify things, but sometimes I think they're simple. That's been the biggest problem at Texas A&M the last couple of years. All the other problems, the slow play calls, the bad timeouts, if the blocking's better, this is a 10-win team these last 2 years. I'm sorry, that's how I see it. You take it from there.
Oh, there's no doubt. There's zero doubt about that. That if we blocked better and we had a better schematically on the offensive line, picking up blitzes, you know, we would have won 10 games. I mean, I think even Billy mentioned this to you the other day. Like, it really wouldn't have been that hard to win 10 games the last few years with this team. And the fact that we didn't is the reason we're talking about a new coach and a new staff. And I'm thankful that we made the move. But, yeah, dude, get it right on the line of scrimmage. We did a really good job on the defensive side. We created, in the last few years, one of the better D-lines in the SEC and in the country. Now it's time to get that figured out on the offensive side. If the skilled players abound, I mean, Le'Veon Moss, Reuben Owens, you got tons of talent around you at A&M. You just got to block them. It's simple. Football is very simple. You're correct. Block and tackle.
Another thing on Colin Klein for a moment. How do you envision the use of Connor and, like, his legs, his ability to process information, and obviously keeping him healthy is paramount. But how do you envision that role?
You know what's funny? I was talking about that the other day with somebody. I think a lot of it's going to depend on who's behind him. You know, because I think in the beginning, you know, Colin's going to want to be really careful, you know, to not get him hurt. We got to see how that O-line does. And so I think as the season progresses, you might start to see him utilize him more in RPO, use his legs a little bit more, get him out in space. You see a lot of, you know, receivers coming over in motion, roll out, play action, a lot of things like that. But I think in the interim, you're just going to want to try to keep him safe, shore up the O-line. You don't want to play it too safe because you got to go win football games. But does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, if we don't have a really solid option behind him, I think that will kind of minimize the playbook as far as utilizing Connor's legs. But as good as Connor's legs are, dude, he's so gifted, man, with the quick release and his arm talent. I mean, the guy can beat you with just his arms. I imagine we'll start that way until we get, like you and I talked about, some confidence in our blocking ability, our ability to protect the quarterback.
Brandon, some thoughts on the way the transfer portal's working right now. They picked up a big name in Will Lee yesterday, which was awesome, but a lot of guys have entered. How does Mike Elko counter that? And how worried are you of the names that have entered the portal?
I mean, worried is a strong word, man. I mean, it's if it didn't work both ways, I'd be worried. But I believe that, that's the thing, is these guys know what they need. This isn't Mike Elko's first rodeo. And again, going back to setting that tone and the expectations as a leader, sometimes you got to do that. And you've got some super talented dudes that have left, but there's also some super talented dudes that are in the portal. I think it's a mess. I think it's a nightmare for college football. I think it's really sad for kids that go the JUCO route, and even high school kids. It's limiting young guys and guys that maybe didn't qualify as options like it didn't used to in the past, because now there's so many people transferring in, into the portal and looking for options that, coaches, instead of going to, search deeper into the recruiting ranks in high school or go hit these small JUCOs, they're like, oh, shoot, we got 10 from Georgia. We got 5 from Mizzou. We got 9 from Ohio State. Let's just look at them. And so I think it's messing up a whole lot of stuff. And I'm hoping one day we can get it right. But I'm not too worried about it, man. This team's going to be what this team is going to be come August when camp starts. And I think that Elko and them, and they have an opportunity. A&M, we can't be scared to play offense too. We got to go get it done in the portal and utilize it well. So Will Lee was a good addition.
Well, Brandon, I keep telling people too, like, not only does the portal work both ways, the NIL component isn't going away. A&M is going to be a player in NIL. So if this dude wants to go elsewhere, those funds are not allocated for somebody else.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, that's the thing is, we have the resources to play the NIL game with anybody. And I know nothing about how it works. I genuinely would be lying to you if I did. But what I know is, do we have a shortage of resources? Nope. Obviously we're tied up now a little bit. We owe Jimbo a little bit of money. But as far as NIL goes, we have resources here. I know there's plenty of people that want to help continue to build that bucket up. Now it's just making sure that whoever's in place with the coaching staff and who's navigating NIL is utilizing it correctly. X player leaves, and he asks for this much money. You got a little bit of depth there where you have that, take that same money, go get 2 more players maybe that could fill spots that are needed. I mean, there's a lot to it that I don't know, but I do know, like you said, that there's plenty of options for us to go and hit the portal aggressively as well.
Brandon, Texas Bowl, Oklahoma State. Hopefully they have enough players to play in the right positions. With this portal thing, you never know. People going in the NFL draft, it could be scary. But your thoughts on this matchup?
I hope we win, because I thought that Oklahoma State was just trash. In that Big 12 championship game, obviously Texas played their tail off. But man, Oklahoma State did not look good at all. And so if we have enough healthy guys to play, I feel like we should go and win that football game. So we'll see what happens. See what happens with it. It's in Houston, so I'm trying to go check it out.
How because I'm ready for this. How ready are you to turn the page completely on this football season? Because we're kind of in a tweener mode right now, Brandon, right? We're kind of like, this is the Mike Elko regime taking over, but they're not really coaching these guys just yet per se. You're still finishing off this 23 season.
Oh, man, I'm ready. And if I can be straight with you, I turned the page after LSU, man. It just was such a disappointing last 2 years that, and you and I get on there every week and talk about it. And it's just so hard to get on there and talk about it when it's just disappointing and it's the same story. And so I'm excited to talk about new things, to see new things, to see new leadership. That's sometimes the best thing about making a move is it really does. It's encouraging. It's like, okay, here we go. It's like, this is new leadership. It's a new strategy. It's a new direction. It's a new team. And so, for me, especially, it's weird. This season of life is weird for me as I'm leaving Houston and heading to Dallas. I feel like I'm turning a new page in a lot of areas. So ready to see how 2024 goes, man, for sure.
I'm going to read this last YouTube chat. Randy says, darn, Brandon makes me want to go to work for Alpha Paving. LOL. So you've inspired some people, buddy.
Hey, we're going to build a special team. We already have. You met Justin Lanham. He's one of the most gifted dudes. I've ever met in my life. And then the guy that's replacing me in Houston, Daniel Stuckey, he's an Aggie, super talented guy. It's gonna be a fun run.
You go do your thing, man. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll talk soon.
All right, brother. Have a blessed day.
Later. Have a blessed day as well. Brandon Leone on the Brian Foley Law Hotline. Let's hit a break right here. When we come back around Aggieland, Kay Naegeli will be with us. After that, Billy Liucci should be in studio. Right now, Milliken Reserve time. They are a farm-to-table community in College Station. They got homes, they got trails, they got wide open spaces, and their mission is to build a healthy community around nature. And they've done that by committing and treading lightly on the land that Milliken Reserve can be found on, creating a sanctuary for family, for nature, and for each other. It's a great community dedicated to that healthy lifestyle that is out there, to respect for the native landscape. And it's such a wonderful place to check out the 2,600 acres of open space, the farms, the trails, and the homes. They connect families to nature and to each other. They've got an extensive network of trails throughout a wooded landscape that includes walking paths, equestrian paths, creeks, ponds, and gathering areas. It is a place that maintains and restores that natural habitat. You're going to love it with all the animals you want, all living out there, from the white-tailed deer to the songbirds to the rabbits and the turtles out there. And homeowners at Milliken Reserve sharing a legacy of conservation, which means generation after generation, you come back to that pristine countryside place. And the neighborhoods out there are amazing. The creek, these homes are on 10-plus acre wooded estates. You've got the hollow in a private gated community, and you've got the meadows that are responsive to that natural surrounding. For more information, check out millikenreserve.com. Again, that website, millikenreserve.com. People going crazy for that Brandon Leone interview. Like, everybody's saying that's the best interview yet. Best interview of the week. First interview of the week for the record. But definitely the best interview of the week so far. TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers here in the Rollo Insurance Studio. Let me tell you about Rollo Insurance. The difference is real. They are the official insurance provider of TexAgs Radio, an independent insurance company built around educating you on exactly what you're paying for, doing the shopping for you so that you can accomplish all of your insurance goals. They can write any form of insurance to anyone in Texas and several other states, as well as they got over 45 offices in the state of Texas. Headquarters is on Highway 6 right here in College Station. Call 888-44-ROLLO or go to rolloinsurance.com. All right, friends, it is time for Around Aggieland, presented by Normandy State Bank. Normandy State Bank, rock solid banking. The website is normandystatebank.com. We go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center, is where we find Kay Naegeli.
You always give me these dramatic intros. You need to start doing it like a basketball line or like a standing
at 5'4".
Really?
I don't know.
Do I look 5'4"?
I don't know. I don't know how tall.
5'8". Come on now.
Are you really 5'8"?
I am.
Okay. At 5'8". Sorry.
Blonde. Whatever.
No, I don't do that.
See, yeah, Olin
would
would
be
rip out
like
some phrases like that. Back to Brandon Leone. I mean, just personal perspective, ever since I've started working here, he has been nothing but great on this show specifically, and then y'all's post-game raps, and then additionally just like great guy all around, always wishes me happy birthday, so I
even
love
on the days that aren't your birthday?
Oh, well, not technically.
That would be weird.
But yeah, still, just a stand-up guy. Anyways, getting into some more football news, Texas A&M and Mike Elko have grabbed Will Lee, former Kansas State defensive back, out of the portal. He did only spend a season at Kansas State, but he earned honorable mention Big 12 honors, making 42 tackles, intercepting 2 passes as a sophomore in 2023. And I know y'all are waiting on some more Billy Liucci nuggets. That will be right after me. I know that's long awaited. Additionally, basketball on the men's side, unfortunately, the duo of David Jones and Javon Quinterly, who was an Alabama transfer, was too much for number 21 Texas A&M to handle, unfortunately, last night, as they fell in their third game 81-75. The loss snapped a 14 home court win streak. That last loss was, unfortunately, the forbidden word, Wofford. So hopefully the Aggies will look to regroup, and they will head to now number 3 Houston on Saturday at 1:30. That's going to be a big one.
They're calling that a neutral site game. But
yeah, which is ridiculous. Buzz pointed that out yesterday, and he had some choice words about it too. So,
but I will say, I mean, doesn't A&M like the Aggie alumni is the biggest in Houston?
Houston, there will be Aggies to show up, but you think about the Houston fan base for the Houston Cougar basketball team.
I think we'll
see. Anyways, on the women's side of things, Texas A&M and Joni Taylor are rolling right now, have won 7 straight and then matched their win total from last year, already won 9 games this season. They overwhelmed Robert Morris on Saturday, 67-36 inside of Reed Arena. They will have a bit of a break, but continue their December stretch. They will play Mississippi Valley State on December 18th at 7 p.m. Or if you haven't watched Joni Taylor and the Aggies, make sure to head out to Reed, because they've been playing some good ball.
They've been playing a lot of good ball. What else do you have for us?
That's all I got, unfortunately. Finals week is wrapping up, so any students out there listening, if you're trying to take a break from studying right now, which I totally get, best of luck to you and all your finals. I'm done with school, though, so I'm here all the time now. That's what my December looks like.
You talked about Will Lee earlier. Did you know that there's a album and a song by Will Smith, your favorite artist, called Big Willie Style? Did you know that?
I did not. I may have to give that a listen.
You may hear it coming back.
That'd be a
from
good
break.
song
You might not hear it. If you're on YouTube, you won't hear it. That's all right. Sure. You can hum it to yourself. Kay, I appreciate you.
Of course.
All right, let's do this. Let's hit a break. When we come back, I think Billy Liucci. If not, we'll get to your text messages. We'll get to some of your talking points. We'll kind of review where we are as Billy makes his trek out here to the studio. We'll get into all that and much, much more. Right now, though, we're talking about sponsorship and vendor opportunities at the Association of Former Students. So if your organization or business is looking for an opportunity to engage with Aggies, then you need to check out the Association of Former Students. They bring Aggies of all ages together during events held throughout the year. Marquee events such as Aggie Ring Day, All Aggie Hullabaloo, and The Gathering, which welcomed tens of thousands of guests. There are many sponsorship and vendor opportunities available to get your brand in front of all the attendees out there. All events offer a wide variety of both digital and in-person options to promote your brand. Options include title, sponsorship, naming, on-site presence and activation, recognition in social media posts, and much, much more. There's also advertising opportunities in both the Texas Aggie Magazine and the Aggie News newsletter, which are seen by over 230,000 people. So if your business is ready to engage, choose a partner with the organization that's been supporting the Aggie Network for over 140 years. For more information on options available through the association, please email sponsorships@aggienetwork.com. Welcome back into TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. To be honest, I've never heard that song, the Big Willie style song. I have heard the album. Appreciate everybody listening in. Billy Liucci walking into studio. You said that like Darth Vader. Hello, sir. How are you this morning?
Yoda, what's up?
How are you?
Good. I love the cold weather, but it's done a number on my voice. But we're going to plow through it.
Plow through, buddy. Any particular place you want to start today? Because I got some angles I can throw at you. But just
angle me.
Angle you?
Coming in angles. I'm gonna just do this, Nuño. like I was in your UFC.
Oh, I was just there this morning, by the
Angles
way.
don't faze me.
No? I don't know, the other day when you tried to take that shot and I kind of blocked and did a little kick move, you weren't expecting that one.
Kick move? Is that what we're calling
it was
that?
called the front kicks with the reverse.
Most people would call that a wild overreaction to an attempted fake assault.
But you like to punch people.
No, I don't.
Not real
That's
punches.
not true.
That's not real punches. The weekend overall, basketball, football, you win some, you lose some. I guess I'll start off
Did
with
they
Will
win
Lee.
some?
No, well, you won a transfer if you want to call it a win.
It was a
Definitely
win.
an addition.
You beat out a couple of good programs.
Yeah.
One of them,
LSU, right?
One of them that just produced a Heisman. One of them that's still playing in college football playoff in Washington. So, I mean, and at a position of need. So that's a significant kind of first get for Elko and this staff. And, I mean, cornerback is a screaming, dire need when you know, and you've even lost your depth there. And I don't think that's the worst thing because it's been a position of weakness. It hasn't been a position of strength on this program. It was one of the most depleted positions going into last season.
You called it beforehand.
And it wasn't like, it was obvious to me, but it just doesn't seem to be obvious across the street. And they do know more about the roster than we do or the fans do, but sometimes, you're not flawless over there. And I think they misjudged what they had. Maybe they weren't unable to get guys in the portal, but I'm watching that season last year going, damn, Miles Jones, who was a really good player at Duke for Elko and Ish this year, I believe at some point along the way, he was close to being a first-team all-conference pick. And then, Jalen Jones, who people weren't expecting to leave early. Put those two guys into the mix, and how do you feel about it? Don't miss on the character eval of Denver Harris. How do you feel about it? Or maybe take someone that was a little less of a risk there that goes into year two instead of going with Denver and Smoke and, guys that were a little more risky. That position was kind of a how-to booklet on how to get yourself into a bind at a position. When you look at A&M in the last year, some of it was misfortune in terms of like the Jalen Jones thing. But when Elko got here, he had to look day one and go, this is a problem. And since then, you've lost Chappelle, who I think in no world was staying, even with Jimbo. I think, leading into Jimbo's termination, that was kind of well known and bright that he was probably not coming back. So, but you get hit with that, and even Deuce Harmon, who was a guy that just played a lot of football for you. So, and I know Harmon's dad said they're still going to continue to consider A&M, but at some point, there are guys that you just have to go, look, you can go in the portal, you go in the portal. That's it. Like, what the hell are we doing here? And some that you'll fight for, maybe even if you don't want to, because they're just too good or that too big a position of need. Then there's other guys in this process, not just at A&M, but everywhere, that are going to go into the portal, and you're going to go, why are you doing that? Like, we're going to keep it moving. And I think they're going to keep it moving at corner. And that doesn't mean that, like, a Harmon won't come back, because it might work out best for both parties. But A&M's just got to keep it moving at cornerback. And they got to sign, I think, my number I'm looking at would be like 3 corners in the portal, and then go sign some really good ones in high school. Obviously, Terry Bussey is the creme de la creme.
Right.
But in terms of right now, Will Lee's a huge addition because he's played a ton of football. You guys, I heard y'all talking this morning, the JUCO background, and I think that just I kind of like that. So I like it when it hardens guys up, but I also like when they've done that and then gone and checked the box in the Power 5 level too.
Right.
So I think it's more about what do you do at K-State, and then you factor in, okay, he's also a tough kid. He's had to go through the grind. He's had to earn it. Tells me he's a tough-minded kid. But I like what he did at K-State. Like you guys were saying, they won the Big 12 last year. A good program. And a tall, rangy cornerback. I thought they were hurt badly this year with a lack of size. and you look at Elko when he was here, and you look at Jalen Jones and Miles Jones, you certainly
bigger dudes
can see that he has a preference. He has a type that he likes there, and Lee fits that mold too. But there's some other corners that, I mean, I'd love to see him get the young man at Oregon State.
There's a couple
East
guys
Texas.
from Oregon State, right?
Well, there's 3: a linebacker, a safety, and a corner. Linebacker and safety are brothers. And corners from East Texas. And he was all 3 of them were absolute studs. And I don't know if you watched Oregon State
I
this
did,
year.
yeah.
They played defense over there. To me, it was them in Utah. When you watch them play, that's a different level of physicality and football on the defensive side than you see in that conference. And it was those 2 teams that really stood out in that regard. Arizona impressed me some too there, but those 3 guys can all play in the SEC. They can all play at this level. They're all coming in. I believe it's Thursday is when they start the visit, but that's a big deal. Texas A&M is going to try to get all 3 of them.
All 3 from
and they would
Oregon
love that.
State.
And they would love it. And look, there are a couple guys that are going to go into the portal that you haven't heard their names yet that are going to be from other schools that are going to be very attractive to A&M as well. They've got to hit on a good percentage of these guys. What I'm going to write today about the DC thing is, I think, I wouldn't say that's on pause at all, but I will say this. Elko's, first of all, there's some names that have been out there that I said last week. I had not heard them. I believe they were false. I've confirmed they were false. They weren't going after certain people that the message boards and sometimes people, I just don't even know where the hell they get it. And they say it so definitively. And people on even our boards will jump on board and say, well, if that person said it, it's got to be true. And I'm just reading it going, it's not. It's just actually not. You know, not to make fun, but it's either true and accurate or it's not. And when I see it and I know it's not, it's mind-blowing how much of a life of its own it takes on.
Right.
Just like the Schumann as even a candidate for Texas A&M. When again, like, who's tried to hire him yet at 33 years old or whatever? Who's tried to hire him since and before? And it's the same thing here this week with the SMU DC. I think if you just start really looking at that philosophically and go, how much does that mesh with what Elko does and has done? It ain't there. He was not a candidate. Now, you'd love that resume. He took this 110th ranked defense to 10th or whatever it is. It's really impressive. But if Elko's going to turn that over to a guy, which is what he wants to do as a head coach, I think he's being really deliberate in this thing. I think anyone that thinks there's been a line of guys that have turned the job down, you're wrong on that. Fuller was at Florida State, obviously could have had the job. He's the hottest DC in college football right now after this season that they had in Tallahassee. That's why Florida State gave him a massive raise and locked him in. Outside of that, that's it. Here's what I think. I don't think. Right now, we just talked about all those transfers and stuff. Elko's a defensive coach. This is my defense. Okay, we're going to run my defense. You're wondering who the coordinator is. He's going to be coordinator of my defense. This is what we've done defensively. When I was at Notre Dame, when I was at Wake, when I was at A&M, when I was at Duke. My defense. So it's a little easier to recruit, and that's why you see his first commitment came on the defensive side of the ball. All these big names coming in, defensive players. Now, some of the kids I think that are wanting to get in the portal are saying, well, I don't know who my DC is. That's for Elko to say, guys, you guys were, like say a Walter Nolan, you were recruited here with me as the DC. You know exactly what we do. A couple of them, like Fadil Diggs, who was going to go wherever Elijah went anyway. But the thing is, you played for me. You know what type defense we're going to. So I don't think that thing's as big a deal as people think. What I do think is you better get that hire right, because you better get that hire right for your first OC and first DC, obviously, right? Kevin Sumlin had a rough go of it because his first DC he didn't have the money to go out and big spend back then.
Right.
And their defense struggled mightily, after that first season when they lost all the seniors. On the other side of the ball, you look at where someone went after his first OC with Cliff, and it just kept going down and down and down. These are massively important hires, especially if you're going to not be the one calling the plays. And that's what I think Elko prefers defensively. You better have a defense for your new D coordinator to field come fall. You better have more than Will Lee at corner. You better have corners. You better find portal linebacker or two. You better go fight and keep these guys from going into the portal on that side of the ball. You're fighting to bring Walter Nolan back after he's visited Oregon and LSU and been promised God knows what. Think about those rogue programs. Sorry, get mad at me, I said it. Think about those programs. You have got to, the number one priority right now is to put together a defense that your new coordinator can come in and coach. And that means keeping players. They're fighting a battle with Shamar Turner right now, where I think they have I think they'd keep Shamar on this football team next year. The threat there is the NFL.
Sure.
And he's right on that line of should you stay or should you go? Of where he's thinking he'll go right now. It's not first or second round. It's right off of that. So that's a massive one right there. You got guys like Shamar Stewart. You've got DJ Hicks. You've got Walter Nolan. And I'm not saying all these guys are thinking portal, but you have to lock them all in. Torian York. You've got some really nice returning players. Bryce Anderson, Jacoby Matthews. So that's one fight. Then it's the portal fight. Then it's the recruiting fight. You had Dom McKinley in this weekend. So you've got to win those battles. And it'd be great if, you had a layup DC. I think Fuller could have been that if he would have been like, yeah, I'm out of Tallahassee. But other than that, I think Elko's like, I need to not lose an hour and let somebody else slip out the door because everyone's coming for him right now.
Well, you just laid out all the things on his plate right now, right? Keep your guys, get new guys, recruits, coaching staff,
hire coaches,
and just establishing what you want your culture to be. Like all those things he's having to deal with, he does not have a spare moment.
Yeah, this is the perfect storm of 2023. What can go wrong in college football with the rules and the timeline as they are? Why do these recruits are getting recruited a second time? And it seems as if college football is bending over backwards to allow these kids complete and total free agency to just go to find the most money they can find somewhere. It really did used to be more about go find where you can play. And I'm all for it. And I'm also all for them getting paid. But it used to be more about go find where you can play. It doesn't look like there's an opportunity at this spot. Don't force them to be locked into where they can't go find an opportunity to play college football. You have a small window in your life. There's a chance to make a career beyond that. There's a chance to make memories. That's why you went to college, was to play. All of that I get. Now, I'm just most of it, and let's call it what it is. Most of it has to do with players going out to see how much money they can make.
Yeah.
And going out and saying, here I am, here's my tape, here's my resume, or here's my high school resume in a lot of these instances, because a lot of these young men that are going out haven't done a jack crap in college. And it's like, I better go get paid. I better find a team, say, for example, like an A&M that's desperate at a certain position, and they're also leveraging their current teams. Some of these kids are going to go back to their programs. A&M's, like I said, they're fighting to get guys like Walter Nolan and Chase Besantis back. But they're out there on the open market getting wooed. You'd be naive to think players aren't out there getting paid to take visits.
Right.
You'd be naive to think they're not just drumming up the price, not intentionally, but just to go, intentionally.
To get the most that they can.
Let's go see what's out there.
Yeah.
But that's what's going on right now everywhere. It's not an A&M thing. That's happening to programs that are top five. But for A&M, the issue is, why do they need that much time, portal? They should start it 1 week later. at least give new coaches, hey, if you wait to hire a head coach, that's on you. But we're going to give you 2 weeks to get your coach hired, assistants hired, program in place, meet with these kids more than once as they're out the door. It's wild. And A&M, I think, is the perfect storm of a problem right now because you had essentially a 2-year deterioration period.
Right.
Where guys, even if you'd have kept Jimbo, they had a foot out the door, and everyone was aware of that. Everyone was aware of that. A lot of kids had 1 foot out the door there. So you had that going on. Then you hit portal, new coach, signing day coming right up. It's a bad setup if you're going to make a coaching change. It doesn't happen like if you're up and a good coach leaves and you can just kind of bump up from within and keep that continuity and all those recruits and players know the stat. Other than that, you got a problem. And then it got worse for A&M when Elijah left. And again, like Elko and everyone that follows this knew, hey, this is what's at risk if Elijah leaves. But it wasn't enough to say, okay, we're going to hire and make the DC someone that's never called a defensive play.
Right.
We spent how many years complaining about people like Jimbo and Mike Sherman trying to coach the offense in game and do all that and the distraction of it and how it held them back as head coaches. Elko does not want to do that. He wants to have someone to say, here's my defense, go. Here's my radio show. David, you go with it. You take it.
Let's hit a break here. Ascend Concrete Lifting and Support, 979-933-8527. Don't replace it. Lift it. Ascend is locally and Aggie-owned and operated concrete lifting and support company providing an easy, clean service at half the price of the replacement. There are problem solvers when it comes to concrete issues. So if your driveway is kind of jacked up a little bit raised in certain areas, they can lift it. And the raising jobs will just take a few hours, start to finish, and your concrete will be ready to use immediately upon completion. There are over 60 years of professional construction and concrete experience. Brian Dickerson is the best. He's an Aggie and his own and operator, as I mentioned. They'll educate you on the lifting process, the materials that they use, and have you completely understand what they're doing out there. They tell you and they show you the why and the how. They will show you what the signs look for cracks and crumbling and pooling and water and porches and whatnot. Most importantly, they'll help you find the solution before your problem does escalate. The service area is local, state, and nationwide. Again, that number, 979-933-8527, residential. They'll take care of you. They'll take care of you commercial, industrial, municipal, you name it. Roads, streets, highways, bridges, all that. Factory floors, they'll take care of you. Reminder, it is Ascend, fraction of the cost of replacement. It is convenient, free estimates, locally Aggie owned and operated. Follow Ascend Lift on Facebook or on Instagram or call them 979-933-8527 for an appointment. All right, we're going to hit a break right here. It's that quick. We'll see you in a few minutes with Billy and Buzz. We are back. TexAgs Radio presented by David Gardner's Jewelers here in the Rollo Insurance Studio. Let's go to the Brian Foley Law Hotline. We are joined by Buzz Williams here this morning. Buzz, good morning. How are you, sir?
Good morning. Doing great. Yourself?
Doing well, thank you, sir. Let's just talk about this weekend and moving on from it. How difficult of a game was it? The threes weren't falling. There were some foul issues out there, and Memphis was obviously hitting their threes.
I thought Memphis is really good as of a roster as we have played this year, and one of the better rosters we've played since we've been here. We did foul way too much. I probably didn't say that enough in post game, but in watching it last night and some this morning, it's bad math when the opponent makes 22 free throws, in addition to all of the other deficiencies we had. We didn't guard the ball near well enough. But we fouled way too much. We turned the ball over way too much. All of the things that are part of our recipe, categorically, all of the different things that are important to us, we were subpar in each of those categories. I thought Manny was really, really good. I thought Andy was out of this world good. I thought Solo played really well. We did some good things, but in a 2-possession game, there were too many things that we count on in order to win that we were not good enough against a team that's as good as Memphis.
Buzz, forgive my voice here, but did a lot of yelling yesterday there at Reed. But when you,
thank you.
Yeah, it was a good Sunday crowd. I'll say that it was.
We didn't give the. It was a really good crowd. We just didn't. I felt like the entire time they were waiting on us to be good to try to help us be better, and too many times we weren't good, and then when we were good, we just weren't good long enough. There were too many stretches of too inconsistent of play on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to ask you. Like, anybody that watches this team and watched that game yesterday could tell that was a something that you and the players were going to be disappointed in, because it felt like you would make a run and get right back in it, and then they would get back to extending it almost immediately. It wasn't the best outing. We know that. So when you have a game like that, and you have such a big one as U of H coming up on Saturday, and you've kind of got that, I wouldn't call it a full week, but, more time to prepare for a game than you normally do.
Yep.
What's your approach, Buzz, on a Monday and even a Tuesday in terms of kind of revisiting what took place yesterday at Reed with the players? Or is it we're going to do this one time as if we had a game Tuesday or Wednesday and we're washing it and moving on? Or is there a lot more introspection, let's say, or look back more so than look ahead?
Yeah. Well, because of what you're saying, Liucci, you're right. In SEC play, you really don't have time to look backwards because in 2 days you're playing again. And so we're off today because the calendar was a little different, playing on Wednesday and Sunday. So today is our off day. And then tomorrow we call it an us day. In other words, it's not 2 days before, it's not 1 day before, it's not the game day. So if it's an us day, everything is about us. And so it does work out in a positive way, if that's the right way to look at it, where we can diagnose the problems from yesterday and spend time in practice on the things that hurt us. So we'll spend the day today as a staff kind of organizing and orchestrating what we want those categories to be in the film room, and then what we want to do on the court tomorrow. I think the way you handle it, Liucci, is the way I try to handle everything, and I'm not saying that that's right. I just think you handle it in a very upfront way. I think that's what our guys have become to expect. I think that's how our staff operates, the truth. And sometimes the truth is hard to receive, but we do have a mature group, and they have thus far received the truth in the right way. They were disappointed. It was not our best. And like I told them earlier in preparation for Memphis, this week is a week in the SEC. That's what this week is. The games are spread out a little further. Instead of playing 2 games in whatever it ends up being 7 days, we're playing 2 games in 8 days. So the calendar is a little different. But similar to everything else that we've done thus far this year, everything's been accelerated. We're not going to play an exhibition. We're going to play an exhibition against the Power 5 team. We're going to scrimmage against the Power 5 team. We're going to do both of those in October. When's your first road game? Our first road game is the first week. Where is it? It's at Ohio State. Well, when's your second game? Well, it's 2 days later, and it's on the road. So I think everything that we have done through the first 6 weeks of the season has been accelerated in regards to the actual lessons that apply towards traction in the SEC. It doesn't mean that we're going to have success, but whatever our deficiencies are and or our strengths are, we have found them out much quicker because of the schedule that we've been playing. And we'll handle the loss yesterday and all of the things that we did poorly straight up. Hey, man, this is exactly what it was. This is not good enough. Here's why it's not good enough. Here's the data. Here's the evidence. Here's the clips. This is what we've got to practice. Houston is better than Memphis. Houston has the number one defense in the country. Houston's the number one offensive rebounding team in the country. This is, I mentioned to our guys after DePaul, as we were beginning Memphis, everything that we said about DePaul, all of it applies, except it's on steroids. And I know I'm probably not supposed to say that publicly, but Memphis, everything is faster, better, more athletic, more off the bounce, more can you guard the bounce, more can you protect the rim. If DePaul is fifth grade, Memphis is undergrad, and Houston is doctorate. Like each level is just going up. It's going up in talent. It's going up in intensity. It's going up in physicality. And we did not respond the next level from DePaul the way that you have to in order to beat a team as good as Memphis.
Talking to Buzz Williams here on TexAgs Radio. Buzz, when a team is out of rhythm in game, how difficult is it to find the rhythm? Because part of the reason is what the defense is doing to you. And I'm talking more offensively.
Yeah, like our offense for the game, David, was 1.06. That's pretty good. It's not top 5 in the country. I think our offense was 7th in the country entering yesterday's game. 1.06 is top 40 type offense. So we weren't great. Some of that was we turned the ball over at a higher rate than we typically do. We were 5th in the country in not turning the ball over, which has really aided us on we'll shoot more balls. Yesterday we did shoot more balls than Memphis, and we still turned it over at too high of a rate. But if you're going to miss shots, at least if you don't turn it over, you have a chance to get fouled. You have a chance to get an offensive rebound. Like yesterday, going into the game, we had offensive rebounded 49% of our shots through the first 9 games. And yesterday we offensive rebounded 38% of the shots. Is some of that the physicality and the athleticism of the game? Yes. Is some of that we didn't get the same opportunities because we were turning the ball over instead of 9% of the time, we turned it over 18% of the time. So all of those things are interconnected. They're going to get the ball out of Four's hands. That's not Memphis. That's anybody. They're going to get the ball out of his hands. Some of our decisions behind that trap were okay. There were some missed shots behind that trap. Some of the traps created turnovers, which led to transition baskets. But our defensive numbers were 1.16. That's not good enough. But some of our poor defense was that our offense was poor. It's all interconnected. And so it's not, I don't think it's one thing that we put on the loss. I think it's multiple things, but many of those things are all interconnected. And in truth, it just wasn't good enough. And we need everybody to be their best, and the energy towards being our best, regardless of the team and regardless of their scouting report. We've got to work incredibly hard to follow the recipe that we know has been successful for us. And that's kind of the fight that's an intangible fight that you don't see in the stats. Yes, we want to make more shots. Yes, we would love to make 11 threes like we did against DePaul. Is that reality? No. Do we need guys to make a higher percentage of shots? For sure. But I don't think that we can always just say, like they say about the NBA, it's a make or miss league. I think I get the premise of it, but I think that there's layers to that where we have to do a better job on both sides of the ball at trying to make it the way that we have to play. And yesterday we were poor in that regard.
You talk about a fight, Buzz, and the fight in these guys. When I look at U of H under Kelvin Sampson, they're fun to watch. Like they just
Oh, yes.
There's such a and you mentioned the defense with them, and there's such a grind you out of a team, and so physically tough. I've watched them over the years. Does that fire you up to find out? I mean, I know you don't question the fight of these guys, but to come off a loss like yesterday, and you're going into Houston to play an elite program that wins a lot of games because of how bad they want it and how bad they'll fight you, does that get you pretty excited to see how your team responds in that environment, win, lose, or draw, but just how they go out there to fight? Because to me, you mentioned the SEC. This is what's going to happen. You're going to lose games when you're not at your best to really good teams. You're going to have to rebound and respond.
I told the guys at halftime, and you probably heard me say it before, and these are not my words. E plus R equals O. Here's the event. This is what took place. And we know what we want the O to be, the outcome. We know what we want the O to be. So relative to the O, we got to figure out our R, and that's our response. And I know it sounds demented, and I'm not trying to remove myself from the fight because I have to be a better fighter in the fight than I was yesterday. But the one good thing about yesterday is the deficiencies and the issues that we had. They're not going to go away. They're only going to be magnified even more on Saturday against Houston. And I think that we have to be careful that we don't overcoach strategy. I think our strategy is sound. I think it's fundamental. I don't think that there's any confusion within what we're doing and how we practice. But I think that there's also some fight that you can't put in a stat. If that guy scores 21 of the first 27, do you think that there should be something enraging inside to prevent him from taking the next shot or make him take a different type of shot? And if the ball stays in the middle of the floor over and over and over, they're picking on somebody. Well, if they're picking on you, is there any way possible that you can stay in front of the ball to keep it from going to the rim? And I think that all of those things, like I haven't even started on Houston, but I know bits and pieces because of my relationship with Coach and the job that he's done everywhere he's been, not just at Houston.
Yep.
I think they've held 8 teams under 40 points this year. And so, I think they're one of 9 teams undefeated in the country. I think they're number 1 in the net or top 2 or 3 in the net. Like, they are good enough to win the national championship. And is it they have good players? Yes. Is it he's a very good current Hall of Fame coach? Yes. But is it also that they're number 1 in the country in how hard they play and how hard they fight? I believe so, too. And so we will have to respond better in every possible way on Saturday in Houston versus Houston than we did yesterday at home in front of a large Sunday matinee crowd that was trying to help us, and we didn't help ourselves enough for them to help us.
Talking to Buzz Williams here on TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. Not to single out people, but I love watching Solo play. I love watching Andy play. Can you talk about their contributions yesterday, the energy, what they bring every time down the court?
I thought those two guys had great fight. I thought those guys made intangible plays that impact winning. I should have played Solo a little more than I did in hindsight. We were just trying to probably play with multiple ball handlers too much to try to make sure we got a shot on the rim. And I think that that's kind of some of the decisions in game time. You can plan because of style of play. You can plan because of their roster. I think he played 19. I think that number probably should have been 25 because he was really good at guarding the ball. He made several 50-50 ball plays that we won. That's one of the things we'll talk about tomorrow is, like, let's just watch all the 50-50 balls, whether they're on the floor or whether they're in the air. What was the score of that game? And I thought Solo was really good. And Andy, statistically, from a scoring perspective, you don't realize how much he impacts the game. But in a game that is a 70 possession game, if you're getting 14 rebounds, that's really hard to take you off the floor. And so if we have to play bigger, so to say, and we have done that, I think going into yesterday's game, we had played 110 possessions of big. In other words, what you guys would say is 2 guards and 3 forwards. We've played big, and we have just been okay. We've been better on the offensive glass, but even though it doesn't make sense, we've been dramatically worse on the defensive glass when we've played big. But those 2 guys yesterday were arguably as good as they have been all year long. Solo, I think, for sure was. Andy's had several good games already this year, but I thought yesterday he was tremendous.
Buzz, we appreciate it, sir. Thanks so much. We'll see you in Houston.
Yes, sir. Thank you, guys. Have a good day.
All right, Buzz, you too. Looking forward to that one.
Buzz Williams there on the Brian Foley Law Hall.
I'm really looking forward to Saturday. Obviously, if they'd have won yesterday, that build-up would have been even more so, but it doesn't take away. You're going to play a team that does have a legitimate look at a national title. You're going to go play a team that's undefeated. You're going to go play a team that has a recent Final Four berth under their belt.
Yep.
Like you said, a Hall of Fame coach. I grew up watching U of H basketball. It was kind of my first taste of college sports, like big-time college athletics. When I'm a little kid, Phi Slamma Jamma, we moved to Houston. You're watching, like, the prime-time Guy V. Lewis and then, Drexler and Olajuwon, but then all the other stars of those teams. And those were my first, like, going to Hoffheinz as a little kid. But I know who I'm rooting for.
Yeah.
But I also know that I get excited about opportunities in games like that, especially when you get to drive right down the road. They got a cool setup with the Texas LSU game, back-to-back, playing those 2. But, man, it's a tremendous opportunity for A&M. U of H is going to be favored. The Aggies have, they certainly haven't looked dominant yet. They've got some nice quad 1 wins. This is going to be a nice out-of-conference resume regardless. But if you win Saturday, it goes from a nice out-of-conference resume to an elite one.
Yeah.
And it's a tremendous opportunity. The Cougars probably, who knows, the way they're playing defense, but they're going to lose. They're going to lose a handful of games this year. Why not make Saturday one of them if you're A&M? They're going to lose in a 30-something regular season. They're going to lose some of them.
Yeah.
It's going to be a very small number, but why not be one of those teams that get them? And so this will be a good toughness test for A&M. I want to see them go out there and compete. I want to feel like they played their best game of the year Saturday.
Also,
and they certainly didn't do that yesterday.
From our perspective, it's easy to say they settled on too many threes. They shot too many threes. I would like to see them attack the rim more often. But again, some of that is the way Memphis played Texas A&M.
Because one of your primary rim attackers, they weren't going to let that happen.
Right.
I mean, they just said it ain't going to happen.
And Boots is still trying to find his form.
Well, yeah, Boots, first game back in what it amounted to almost
4
like
games.
3 weeks, right?
Yeah.
So, and it's not, I don't think it's coincidental that he started playing better in the second half, too. But look, what no one will talk about, too, is they're really missing, in my opinion, Marble.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think they're really missing him. But in light of that, you got to, now Andy played the way he did. I want to see more of him and Solomon.
Me too.
I just think they bring a different kind of energy and toughness and get more and more of them and, more Boots. I mean, obviously as he gets into it and hopefully Wade and Henry both, when you're not getting much from them in a given game, you're not going to win.
Right.
A&M's not going to win. You can get by if one of them, is having a struggle. You're not going to get by when it's both. And with Boots coming, what did Henry get? 5 shots yesterday?
Yeah.
And credit Memphis, I do agree. Like you could just see the talent there that Penny Hardaway recruits, but you'd have liked to have seen A&M walk out there at home and put forth their, like, Memphis sees the best version of Texas A&M. And I don't think we saw that yesterday. And part of that's a credit to Memphis, but part of that, I think the Aggies have to take that on themselves, and Buzz always does that to say. But the good news is you haven't lost a home game in how long? Like, was it been since Wofford?
It was since Wofford, 14 games.
So basically a year. That's the good news. They and again, like he kept saying, Reed Arena was ready to pop off. And A&M would make that run, and they'd cut it to a bucket or they'd tie it. Like, it was like 2 times they had pretty significant runs to tie it or cut it to within 2, and they just couldn't get over that hump and really pop the lid off of Reed and have it affect Memphis. So, and again, you credit Memphis because they weathered those storms. And obviously, they had one guy was white hot, it was ridiculously hot in the first half. And I think I was going to ask Buzz about that, but he kind of answered it. If you notice that last question, he was answering kind of the why. If a guy scores 21 or the first 27 or whatever it is, what are you doing wrong? And if you go back and listen to that answer, he's kind of explaining what he thought was going wrong that was allowing that guy to continue to catch and shoot.
Yep.
And in the second half, I'll say this. Quinterly is a freaking dog.
Yeah,
and I loved him at Alabama. He didn't get as much talk because of, Brandon Miller.
Sure.
But I loved him at Bama. He killed A&M in the SEC title game, in SEC tournament title game. And I think that dude has – and I don't know if A&M – there was somebody this offseason that A&M was heavily involved with in the portal. And I think it might have been – not in the portal, but there was a guy that they had a real shot with. And I think it was either him or the other guy from Bama. But Quinterly, I think, took it really personally when they came here last year and A&M beat them, and Wade went off.
Yeah.
Okay, Wade went off in that one. I think, did he score like high 20s in that game when they knocked off Bama? And since then, he has had 2 really big games against Texas A&M, and I think he's taken it personally, not just A&M, but also Wade.
Yeah.
And I respect that kind of I wish they would have done a better job of guarding him in the second half. But you watch him and you go, okay, that's college basketball. That's what I like about this game is these dudes that and look, I want to see that from Wade Taylor Saturday against U of H. Just say, hey, they shut me down Sunday. I'm not going to have 2 games like that in a row. And I don't care how good the Cougars are defensively. I'm going to go out and have myself a day in Houston. So we'll see. But I think Wade and the rest of those guys should feel pretty challenged and feel like they've got a lot to prove on Saturday.
Can you remind the audience of the Luch? Tell us a little bit about the Luch at
The
Costa
burrito. I was thinking about that this morning, actually. I may have to go have one. But just I believe they're called the handhelds. I do a handheld burrito. It's got chicken. It's got black beans. It's got rice. A lot of cilantro. Chicken, black beans, rice. And I do it with, the Lelouch itself is going to come with the red enchilada sauce inside, cheese, and a little bit of their incredible queso. And they run that thing through the griller, and there you go.
How many do
if
you
you
have?
really want to be, you get a certain whatever sauce you want on the side, queso or salsa or whatever, and you kind of pour that on each bite. And there you go. It's plain, it's basic, it's simple, it's really good.
You get one or you get multiple?
It's a burrito, man.
I don't know.
It's pretty big.
All right, just
yeah, no, it'll fill you up.
It'll fill you up. Okay, not like a breakfast burrito. It's a legit burrito.
No, it's a big burrito. I think I wouldn't even order like chips or anything with it.
That's it. That's enough.
Filling, yeah.
Oh, okay, check that out at Costa Vida.
Chicken, black beans, rice, red enchilada sauce, queso.
When you go by, go say hi to Holly. She's a good Aggie, and she's the owner and the operator. 4501 Mills Park Circle in College Station. Again, 4501 Mills Park Circle in South College Station. It's Costa Vida. Fresh Mac's done the right way. Go check it out. Welcome back in TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. Rollo Insurance Studio. Billy's with us here for the remainder of the hour. Billy, some, I think, unexpected news over the weekend. Draylon Miller deciding to go to Colorado.
Yeah.
That one kind of caught me off guard. I thought that they were going to be able to pull him back in, Godfather style.
And they still might. I think a lot of that would depend on if you're able to
get another visit.
Pull Lagway from Florida and maybe get a visit that way. But I'm at a point where I question anything when at this point, guys that go right now willingly to play at Colorado that could go to after what I saw to finish last year that could go to winning, and I forget A&M and forget Draylon Miller. Could be talking about that tackle that committed to him this weekend. Guys that go willingly there right now that could go to the Georgias, the Alabamas, hell, nobody wants to hear it like where Texas is at. They're in the playoff. Go to an Ohio State that wins every single year, or LSU that just produced a Heisman winner in that offense and things like. When you're making that choice, it's kind of like you're overlooking a lot of red flags that you saw take place on the field, and I like in the so if you just watch it, it looks like a bit of a circus to me, and people that are willingly signing up for that, I'm just going like, to me, what we're seeing here, I think in some level, A&M would do well to not enter into that,
right?
And that's that. I mean, I that's how I feel about it. And in the specific case of Draylon Miller, A&M's going to continue to recruit and try to get that to flip and get it to go their way, because he's an incredible high school football player. I think he's going to be a terrific college player. He's from Golden Triangle area. He's from Texas. He was once committed to you. I think he's a guy that could have an impact next season, not just in that wide receiving corps, but just on the offense in general, on the football team, make them a more explosive, high-scoring football team. I think he could help you in the return game instantly. So it's a big recruitment, but, yeah, Colorado, to me, when it comes to high-quality football players right now, it's always a surprise, and I don't think it's just an A&M thing. I think it's a lot of schools around the country. When they get guys, I think you see Kirby Smart and Nick Saban and Brian Kelly and coaches Dabo Sweeney and coaches like that scratching their head going, come on now.
Right.
I mean, until Dion proves otherwise. But to me, I gave him credit at some point along the way this year, and it wasn't necessarily because they were beating TCU and Nebraska, because those teams weren't good. TCU that 1 week, you thought, okay, but TCU wasn't good. Nebraska wasn't good. I don't know the good team that they beat. Maybe I'm forgetting one, but just watching the way that whole thing went otherwise, I don't know how I'd feel about feeling good about entering into that situation.
Would you say that the Big 12 is a step up from the Pac-12? Offensively, no, but defensively?
You mean in terms of the competition they're going to face?
Yeah.
Not the future Big 12, no.
Yeah.
I mean, because this was an up year, I think, for the Pac-12. You look at Washington, you look at Oregon State. You look at Utah's always Utah. Arizona had come up.
Yeah.
You look at the quarterbacks in that league this year. I think the conference was up a little bit. I don't think it was elite, but I damn sure don't think next year's Big 12 is when you take out Oklahoma and Texas. I think it's going to be like you're going to be playing football in a really weak conference, and you're going to be playing football. I mean, people will watch Colorado on TV because of Prime, but I think you're playing against a weaker level of competition week in and week out, and you're willingly doing so. I don't know. We'll see. But A&M will continue to recruit guys like him and Lagway, and they'll continue to fight for the guys they've got committed. There's others they're going to try to flip. I mean, there's a lot, like we were talking about earlier with Elko, there's a lot going on. And when you're sitting there doing all this recruiting, and then you get a phone call or get alerted or however it happened that, hey, by the way, Draylon Miller either just picked or is about to pick Colorado, whatever that is. Imagine how much that throws off a visit weekend, and you're wrapping up your
Yeah.
visit talking to all these kids, and you're like, damn, now we got to go
find
try our
something.
best to handle that or get back in, or what's our adjustment to it? Do we still have a chance? Let's find out what kind of window there's still. I mean, there's a lot just in that one recruitment that throws off the Sunday of wrapping up official visits, trying to keep guys secure, hey, what about Walter Nolan? What's going on? What are we hearing from Baton Rouge? What did we hear from Oregon? It's crazy right now. It's especially, like I said, crazy for a coach in transition, that's just taking over a job.
All right, let's hit a breaker here. We'll come back with a little bit more. Let's talk about criminal defense and DWI lawyer Brian Foley of Brian Foley Law. He's an Aggie, a longtime listener and a subscriber of TexAgs. He's board-certified lawyer. Only 7% of attorneys in Texas are that qualified. He's a criminal defense and DWI attorney. And look, we all make mistakes. It could be you. It could be your kids. There's several scenarios out there. A 40 to 50-year-old man with friends out celebrating a birthday or a graduation. You have a couple of drinks at dinner. Someone cuts you off in traffic, and you speed up to get around them. And all of a sudden, you get pulled over by a police officer who asks you to do those roadside gymnastics. The next thing you know, you're under arrest, and they're trying to suspend your driver's license. Terrible situation. What you need to do is make sure that you reach out to Brian Foley when that happens. Good people can have a bad day. The next day, start by calling a criminal defense lawyer and a DWI lawyer in Brian Foley. They cover the Houston, the Woodlands, Conroe, and, of course, Bryan College Station. Call Brian Foley Law, 936-596-0407. He answers, and he gives you a very personal touch. Again, 936-596-0407, or go to brianfoleylaw.com.
We are back. TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. Billy, you had a little bit of an update yesterday, I think. Still waiting word on the rest of the staff. I know you already addressed defensive coordinator, but there's still some other positions that we're getting closer.
Yeah, and I've mentioned the tight end, mentioned it very early. We talked about Trooper Taylor, and then I also mentioned the tight end special teams, Doherty, that I'm going to do some follow-up, but I've kind of been expecting those two to eventually make their way over as well. And Trooper Taylor could be, I don't know if he'll be here today, tomorrow, but it could very quickly. I fully expect him to be here. Nothing's changed on that front. I do think with Manny Diaz being hired there, it expedites it. So, again, I wouldn't be shocked to see him in Aggieland today or tomorrow per that. But I think he's, based on everything I've heard, he's agreed to come. So now you're looking at Duke going, who else is coming? I think you look at Doherty and perhaps a Jess Simpson, who was one of their D-line coaches there last year, if they decide to go with two D-line guys. But I think you might be, I say this, I don't know if this is true or not, are you holding off so your defensive hire can add an assistant or two? And in particular, like a linebackers coach. So I think some of that's going to depend on DC hire pending. But I do expect Trooper Taylor to be the next let's just say formal addition to the coaching staff.
How complete do you think they have to have it by signing day? Does it matter?
I think it does. What I really would like to see sooner than later is a receivers coach, more so maybe more so than any of those spots, because I think like receiver is going to be a real priority. I think probably a guy like Evan Stewart might be waiting to see that. I don't know how. I can't get a real feel for how much Evan is looking around versus not. I know he seems pretty locked in, but I know what's in his ear. I can't imagine what's in his ear and who's trying to get at him. And, it seems to kind of change like the weather. So we'll see on that one. But I think getting a wide receivers coach in that he would connect with and feel good about, because I think Colin Klein was a huge first step, massive first step. And then not only that, though, the receivers coach, I think you want to add some of these guys in the portal as well. And I think they're actually about to I think their next portal addition is going to come at that wide receiver spot. And we've talked about those guys over the weekend. Old Dominion, South Alabama. I think you're going to see them do well in the portal at receiver. But also it's guys like Evan Stewart. It's some of these massive names at receiver that have gone in or are going to go in the portal. So I do think that that's a position of real need, and I think you'd hope to have a Draylon Miller. Odds still are that you won't. I do think they'll make a run there, but I think odds are that you won't with that late of a commitment to Colorado happening. So, yeah, I think getting that position filled quickly would be pretty significant.
One of the names that Howell talked about yesterday is Jamori Macklin and Will Lee, both from St. Louis, from Kirkwood High School. So there's at least a connection there to help entice if he is still considering A&M.
Yeah, Macklin is, and that's a guy that I don't think they're going to back away from at all. I think it's a guy that they're going to go full bore in recruiting. Again, there's like three options right now: portal, wide receiver, and there's going to be plenty more that pop up throughout this process.
You mentioned Manny Diaz to Duke. Do you think it's a good fit for them, for him, and for them?
Yeah, give Manny another shot. I know it didn't work for him at Miami. I think he's done a terrific job at Penn State. He's always been a respected, quality defensive coordinator. We've known that. It didn't work out for him at Miami, but who has it worked out for at Miami? I think there are other issues beyond Manny Diaz. So, I think him at Duke, I don't think you can do what Mike Elko did there. We'll see. We'll see if Elko gave him a springboard and kind of a launching pad, and he can take that and run with it. because there still should be some defensive talent over there. There's a defensive culture. You're bringing in a defensive head coach. His OC hire, I think, could go a long way towards determining that. And Manny Diaz has always been known as a good recruiter, so let's see what kind of staff he puts together.
All right, let's hit a break. We'll come back. I want to ask you about the Heisman. Jaden Daniels getting it, and maybe get to some of those final text messages out there. Right now, we're talking Heritage Films. That is the website is yourheritagefilm.com. It's owned and operated by my buddy, the founder, Chance McClain. If you got stories that you want to tell about your family and you want to make sure that they're captured, better than a Facebook memory, right? Like an actual family story. You want it done in documentary form, you're going to need to call Chance McClain up. He'll do your family story, and he'll do it with so much integrity, so much creativity. You will love what Chance McClain can do with Heritage Films. He is a very, very creative guy. He's done Broadway musicals. He's done radio stations. He's done movies, red carpet shows, you name it. He's done it all. But the one thing that I think he does better than anything is he's just a storyteller, and he does it with so much passion. He loves this. Is his, like, all his clients become his buddies. He talks to them all the time. If you call this number, 713-893-8341, Chance will answer. He'll do it himself. It's a family-owned business, and they do it all. And it's awesome. They can do the documentary films for your family, talking 2-hour documentary, or he can also do these 20-minute benchmark videos, which are called year flicks, and they are awesome. I mean, when I say awesome, and they can be more like freshman year to sophomore year for one of your kids, right? To junior year, do another one, and then senior year, follow their journey through college. It's so cool, especially go to A&M, get that story told. The phone number, 713-893-8341, 713-893-8341. Or go to yourheritagefilm.com. Again, that website, yourheritagefilm.com. Final segment of the program, TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. What in the... Did you cut somebody's hair?
Evangelist, I made a joke.
Okay.
That we need a lock of his hair.
Okay. Tell me more.
Just there was a pair of scissors sitting there. I said, Luke, we're going to need a lock of your hair here. He said, actually, go ahead. I'm getting a haircut today. So we lopped off some of that wonderful head of hair that Evangelist walks around with, and there you go. There's a picture of Buzz they have in there in the office, and we thought about over time, every time Luke gets a haircut, put a lock of hair, and just on the picture eventually will be like almost like a Buzz Chia Pet. But with Luke Evangelist hair, we'll give him a televangelist afro. And now you've got it.
Out of curiosity, why did you hand it to me?
I don't know. I got tired of walking around with somebody else's hair.
Oh, my God. That's not like you. Do I see a little white thing? No, I don't see a white thing.
No, he's not gray.
Can I put it in the trash, or do you want to say
Yeah, you can get rid of it.
Okay.
It was just...
Like
I need to
do
wash
it slowly
my hands.
there.
Yeah, I feel like you can probably clone Luke now.
Anywho, when's the last time you showered here at TexAgs?
I would never. What the hell are you talking about?
I have. That's why I brought it up.
Why? That's the grossest shower.
No, it's been cleaned.
Reminds me of like something from 1976.
Yeah.
Those little weird square tiles.
Yeah, they have the weird square tiles.
It's kind of like what you'd envision as potentially a prison shower. I mean, it's disgusting. And that weird all white shower. Hell no. Man.
You've really investigated this shower.
Well, Josh goes in there like he's like at home.
I sometimes, when I come from my jiu-jitsu practice, will go in there and shower before the show. Sometimes.
By the way, it's also a little inconsiderate when it's like one of the two bathrooms. It's really the one bathroom for access for everybody. And then there's somebody in there just like scrubbing their armpits, washing behind the ears.
I do it at 7:04 in the morning. There's like Nick's here. He's the only one left.
Yeah, it's weird.
It's weird. Jaden Daniels.
You can get athlete's foot.
No,
That's what's going to happen in that shower.
I have slippers, like they do in Bull Durham. You got to have the right slippers in there.
Oh my God.
Anywho, Jaden Daniels. Would you have voted for him?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would have voted for him. I thought, you watched him play against A&M. You saw the impact. Yeah, the LSU, I think, they might have gone 500 without him. Maybe worse because they lost 3 anyway. He's certainly worth 3 games to them. They certainly don't beat A&M and score over
Especially
30 in that
down.
game.
Oh.
4th and 5. That was a Heisman kind of play. But the one thing I didn't like about Jaden this year, and it was kind of like RG3, except at the end of the day, I go, who's a better college football player this year than him? And I don't think there was one. My thing, though, is I would have wanted him to see him make a difference in a meaningful win for LSU this year. They lost to Ole Miss. They lost to Alabama. They lost to Florida State. On the good news is he was kind of the reason they were in those games. He was spectacular in their losses, and I think that's ultimately what got him past that.
Mm-hmm.
But it is a Heisman Trophy winner where I go, who'd you beat this year that even remotely mattered? Who are the wins? Like I'm asking that. Like who did they beat? Missouri, I guess. Yeah.
That was a good win.
It was a good win, but I mean, like what? There just was nothing. To me, it was like 1-3 as a starting quarterback in their 4 games against quality teams this year. And unfortunately, I'm not counting that win over A&M. There was an unranked 7-5 A&M team. So from that standpoint, but you go back and say, okay, then who meant more to their team? Who was a better college football player this year than Jaden Daniels? And I don't think Penix was, and I don't think Bo Nix was. Nix was close. And I think had Oregon beaten Washington to win the Pac-12 and vault themselves into the playoff, I think I would have gone with Bo Nix. He didn't. I'm just going, who was a better college football player this year? And I don't think there was one better.
Yeah, for me, it's who's the most dynamic, best player in college football. And then I started evaluating the wins and see how close it was. And I don't think Penix blew me away, although he was great.
Yeah.
Bo Nix didn't blow me away. He was really good.
Marvin Harrison sure didn't.
No.
So, and I think Marvin Harrison would probably be the best NFL player out of all of them.
Right.
Probably.
Billy, good stuff, buddy.
David, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
We'll be back if we get any breaking news on any of these fronts, of course.
I won't go anywhere.
All right. Yeah, you'll be here.
Tomorrow on the program, Jamie Morrison going to stop by. Looking forward to talking to Jamie Morrison. John Puglisi will join us as well. We'll talk a little bit more Aggie basketball. Today on the program, we had a good time. Thanks to Olin Buchanan in that first hour. The Go Hour was typical Go Hour. I believe there's a tweet going out there right now of some Olin commentary. I want to check it out. I was tagged on it. I'll check that out. Brandon Leone inspiring people to go work for him. How about that? Brandon was awesome. And, of course, Buzz Williams joined us here on the program. That's going to do it for TexAgs Radio here on a Monday morning. Freaking the last week of school for a bunch of the elementary kids and college pretty much done. Thanks so much for watching and listening. We'll see you mañana.